Soup, soup, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Neverdaily podcast. It's a show.
It
It's a
is show.
podcast.
And we entertain your earballs with our lovely lyricals from our lovely mouths.
Shoes are optional.
I'm wearing shoes.
I'm not.
Well, I'm wearing slides. Does that count?
I don't even have socks on.
I have to have socks on.
I'd show my feet, but I'm afraid we'd get too many Patreon supporters.
I was once told I went and got one pedicure once because my wife's friend didn't go. She had to cancel last minute. And so I went with my wife, and the lady there told me that I have the softest feet for a man she's ever felt. And I was like, I don't know how to feel about that.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's a compliment, but also that means your feet never see sunlight.
Yeah. When I take my socks off, I still look like I'm wearing socks. We'll put it that way.
I know people that can walk anywhere barefoot.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. Like, I can't imagine walking barefoot that much to get your feet that tough. Like, I have I don't know, the worst rock on the side of my house. It's like fractured basalt or something. It's horrible. And it's like razor blades. But it got so bad that I started feeling it through my old pair of Crocs. Like, I'm like, ow, 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 ow. And then I knew that I needed new Crocs at that point. But also I was like, I know people that could probably walk on this.
Yeah. I had a friend once. He came over. Him and his wife lived in this weird, they were like property sitting for the company he worked for. They bought a property and they were going to use it in the future, but it was a hot spring. So there was people always trying to get in there, but it's liability because they're a company. And so they had someone living down there for a couple years to just keep people out. And so it's like this weird little hot springs. It's completely torn down now. But so my buddy used to live down there, and it's like dirt roads and stuff. One time they came over to watch a show with us because they didn't have TV, and we're watching some show. And he comes to our house. So he drives to our house. We're like, hey, let's go to this place and get food because we don't feel like cooking. And we're like, okay. So we get in the car and we drive to this place, and we're standing in line. It's kind of like a Cafe Rio, Costa Vida type place.
Yeah.
And we're standing in line, and he goes, I'm not wearing any shoes. So he had left his house, which is gravel and dirt, like walked to his car, got in, drove to my house, came into my house. We sat there for 10 minutes, left, drove to the thing. And he's driving, by the way. And that's when he remembered he was not wearing shoes. Like, because how do you not know you're not wearing shoes outside? And it's just like, he has hobbit feet for sure.
Yeah, I can't.
He could probably walk on broken glass and be just fine. And me, I'm like, ow, I can feel these through my shoes. Ow.
It's like one of the like every story that's told on Missing 411. If you haven't seen that series, I think it's Netflix or Prime or I don't know. Look up Missing 411 if you've never seen it. It's the eeriest missing stories you've ever seen. It's the one, and you might have seen. I mean, there's been times where that just the images have gone viral of. It originates from Missing 411, but they did research to show a map of the United States of all the missing people, and it's like a heat map or dots. It's like where they went missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they overlay that map with the nation's cave systems. And it's a dead nuts mimic. It's a perfect overlay. And it's creepy. Anyway.
That's where all the Sam Scramches live.
Yep. But Missing 411 is amazing. One of the ones that gets me the most, though, is there's this guy that goes missing, and they're tracking, and over a series of miles, they find clues. They basically find this linear trajectory that he's heading.
Mhm.
They think, you know, but after a series of miles in high country, crazy high country, right? They find a clue and they're like, he went this way. So they keep going, and like 8 miles. I'm not quite sure. Don't hold me to that, but like 6 or 8 miles away, they find his boots and
Hmm.
socks just organized on a rock. And then, like another ridiculous number of miles, they find more evidence. This just a straight path that ends up on these people's ranch, like on the outskirts of the ranch, in the wilderness part of the ranch. They find more evidence of him. So, like, you start thinking about it, and you're like, they're like, well, this could be hypothermia, because people start taking their clothes off and stuff
Mhm.
when they're hypothermic. I'm like, yeah, but he took his shoes off and
Yeah.
socks off and then walked
In the woods.
like 8 miles in high country. And I'll tell you, hunting a good amount, you can't, until you do it, you can't wrap your head around high country that has no trail. So
Yeah.
the best contrast I can give people for hunting versus hiking is hiking. The majority of the time you're on a trail, even if it's sort of a trail. I remember one time I was in the high country in near Stanley, Idaho, and there wasn't a trail per se at one point. We got too high in the country, not
Mhm.
metaphysically, and the trail disappeared. So what you used were cairns, and cairns are stacks of rocks.
Mhm.
And you could basically, it almost worked like a click. Like, you hear military guys like, that's 3 clicks away. Visibly from one cairn, you could, if you looked, you could scope out where the next cairn was, and you just head to the next cairn. But we're talking, you know, thousands of feet, maybe a mile or so, and you could get lost real quick.
Mhm.
Uh, that's hiking. Like,
Yeah.
even in its worst case, that's hiking. Like, you're going cairn to cairn, and that's still just challenging. When you're hunting, the animals are nowhere near the trail
No.
ever,
No.
right? Unless you're stupid lucky.
Yeah.
So when you're when you're hunting, you take a trail in to the backcountry, and then you take a left or a right, and it's never just flat. You're just
No.
like, now we're going up.
Mhm.
And then you get up off the trail, and you might be a quarter mile off the trail, up or down, and everything just gets harder. Everything wants to kill you. Tree fall. You're like,
Mhm.
well, we'll just make our way through this section here that's tree fall. Oh my gosh, if you've ever crossed over one fallen tree, it can be a challenge because the ground gives way.
Mhm.
Nothing is stable. When you go across a whole area that is tree fall, forget it. It's what would, without the trees there, what would literally take you 5 minutes to cross ends up being an hour
Mhm.
because of the amount of brush and tree fall. And then you're like, man, the animals live out here, and you'll watch a deer just deftly navigate the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think about that dude, and I think about that dude walking, and I'm like, it wasn't a trail.
No.
Blows my mind.
So yeah, you're constantly walking through things, around things, over things. Like, or I mean, you might have to go forever out of the way just to get around something. And then you realize, oh, I can't even get around it because I'm trying to get over there. But there's this canyon right in front of me now that I didn't see there earlier. And it's just like, yeah, like, because I've been shed hunting. It's the same thing. You have
Yeah,
to go where the animals are. You can't go where the trails are. So you have to go where the animals go, which is
yeah,
sometimes like you realize how thick their hide is and their skin is at some points.
yeah.
You're trying to walk through some thickets and yeah, it's just not fun. It's not fun. And to do that, like even with boots on, you do that for 8 miles and your feet hurt at the end.
Brutal.
And to imagine doing that without any shoes or boots on, like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Well, and at some point you'd start thinking, okay, we're going to start finding pieces of this dude just
Mhm.
because it's falling off.
Yeah.
Because that's too harsh of territory for
Mhm.
human skin to survive. The two worst that I've experienced are crossing tree fall. And it'll be acres of tree fall, just in, that's the way dead trees end up happening, especially if it's like, if there's an insect that decimated an area or whatever. And the other one is, I remember this one time I was on this game trail, which if you haven't seen a game trail, what a game trail looks like, if you
It's
look at
also that wide.
yeah, if you look at the side of a mountain and you can see like where the road would be below, where where humans built a road, or even like a trail, you'll see a trail and it just looks like somebody etched it on the side of the mountain. But if you look really close and you look higher on the mountain, you'll see little hair-like lines that go
Mhm.
across, and it's basically it's just the footpath of animals, cervids like elk or deer or
Mhm.
whatever that's taking those. They're never flat.
No.
So it's just etched into the side of the mountain just enough that you visibly can see it, but you're always at an angle. You're always walking side, like you're vertical, the mountain is not. And so your ankles are at a 30-degree
Yeah.
the whole time you're walking, and it's brutal if you go
Mhm.
too far. I remember this one time I was walking this game trail and I was like, I've got to get off of this game trail. It's killing me. And I came to what you might have seen on mountains, which is you see cliffs. And if you see rock cliffs, below the rock cliffs, it's dusted with what from a distance looks like just rocks or, pebbles or whatever.
Mhm.
It's a boulder field most of the time. And so I thought, well, I'll just make my way down this rock wash. I'll just make my way down it. It was absolutely the worst experience I've ever had because the rocks weren't small enough to be like underfoot.
Mhm.
You're navigating over them, where you're not having to navigate over. It's falling away from you, so you're sliding, and your
Mhm.
knees are taking a pun. Like, I can't describe it well enough, except for I was almost crying because it was so painful and so terrible. By the time I hit a flat trail, I almost couldn't believe it. I couldn't
Mhm.
believe the stark difference between mountain that wants to kill you and where probably hundreds of feet have trod.
Yeah.
It was nuts,
Yeah.
crazy. And to think how many people don't experience that, like, because you will hike the trail.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
Or when
Anyway.
people say I'm going hiking and they go to like a park and it's asphalt. It's
Yeah,
literally
we're on
paved.
the green belt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just paved and there's cut grass on either side of the trail.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not hiking. That's just walking outside.
Well, and the thing is, like, I used to kind of guffaw when somebody be like, "Oh yeah, no, I hike the high country." I'm like, "Do you? Do you?"
Do
But
you?
anything out there, whether you're hiking, like I know a couple ultra runners, and that's unbelievable. Like they're literally where I'm hunting, but they're running.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense to me. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. And one guy in particular, I know, he wears those feet shoes when he
Oh, yeah,
ultra runs.
the toe shoes.
Yeah. So like, he's the ultimate, like, I know for a fact that guy could walk on my basalt side rock near my garbage cans.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
He wouldn't even flinch, not even for 1 second.
Not for a second. Anyway, I have a couple fun weird news from our friends at This Is True, if
Our
you'd like.
friends.
This one is titled Some Huevos. If you don't know what huevos are, it's eggs, but also slang for balls.
Yeah. In Espanol.
Yeah. Luis Rubiales, age 48, a former professional soccer, not,
Oh.
so it's football.
Food.
Soccer player in Spain, had a storied career. He was elected president of the Association of Spanish Footballers, which he quit when he was made president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. So dude upgraded from Association of Spanish Footballers to Royal Spanish Football Federation. He resigned that position in a scandal after kissing a player at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup final award ceremony against her will. So the challenge with that off the front, as I'm seeing it, is Luis doesn't realize maybe he's probably lived a life that allows him to kiss people all the time or make a love to them, but forgot that cameras are rolling, right?
Yeah.
So this was against her will, and he was convicted of SA, sexual assault.
As you are.
Later, he was arrested in a corruption investigation.
Whoopsie.
More recently, Rubiales has been hyping his memoir, Matar a Rubiales. That means killing Rubiales. Saying his troubles are due to conspiracy of different powers of Spanish public life and the profitable world of feminism. At a public appearance, Rubiales was on stage when a man in the audience started throwing huevos, or eggs, at him. At least one hit him, and another splattered him. The man was identified as actor Luis Rubiales, his uncle. The sportsman claims his uncle is a trouble man and always has been. Or maybe just a good judge of character.
Yeah, maybe he's normal and he doesn't like assaulting women.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
weird
right?
to think about, I guess, for some people.
Oh, there's been a couple windows into the life of celebrities where I've seen them and I'm like, man, you have no idea what like normal life is anymore.
Yeah.
Just no idea. The first one I can recall was there was like a NBC special or something on Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah. I heard about this. Is the homeless one?
I don't know if it's the homeless one. It was one guy. It was like this reporter / writer who was graced with access to Michael Jackson to do this like special on him, and they followed him around and camera crew and everything into this like secret life world of Michael Jackson, right? Because everybody always wondered. And I can't remember his name, but it was like groundbreaking. Nobody had ever done this. And I remember at one point there was this weird juxtaposition of like Michael Jackson was like out of money, sort of like he was bringing money in, but his lifestyle was so extravagant that it was like outpacing the money that was coming in. But it was weird. Like he's not poor and he's not filing bankruptcy, but like he lived in a world where like his people were liquidating assets to maintain things, right? And I don't know, I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but there was this juxtaposition between like his weird lifestyle and the fact that people are like offloading his stuff to pay for the weird life. But at the moment it talks about that, it's showing him walking through this like antiquities dealer. And he's walking through and he's literally like, oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful vase right there. I'll buy that. I'm going to buy that. It's like 6 feet tall. The vase was 6 feet tall. And he's walking through and he's just pointing things like, I want that. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to take that over there. I'm going to take that. And like, while they're saying that his people are liquidating his assets, which let's be clear. When you're talking about liquidating Michael Jackson's assets, you're like, okay, how many places does he have in Japan? Okay, let's get rid of a couple. He's probably got a garage full of cars that he doesn't even know about. You know, they're like, let's sell all of the servants from that house.
Yeah.
You know,
let's sell his Toyota Tercel collection real quick.
Yeah, like
no one's gonna miss it.
I remember. Well, he owned the you probably know this. He owned the skeleton of oh my gosh, no, I'm losing my mind. Oh, the oh my gosh. He owned the skeleton of, why can't I think of his name?
Let's see. Michael
It's the deformed guy. I'm not an
Skeleton
animal.
Man.
What?
It says that he had a fascination
Elephant
with
Marissa
John
back
Merrick.
door. Yeah, he
which
was
is
the elephant man.
man.
Yeah. Thank you, Marissa, in the back door. She saved us. Yeah, he owned the skeleton of the elephant man at one point. That's the kind of thing where they're like, has he seen it in a while?
Yeah.
Let's get rid of it.
At one point, he also owned over 250 Beatles songs, like the rights to them.
Yeah, yes. There were actually several artists where he bought the masters. He bought the rights and masters to it. And I remember, I think it was Prince was talking about that at one point. How like the dude might seem oblivious in a lot of ways, but he was a genius in that he would buy the copyrights to other musicians' stuff.
And also, like, people don't understand that he was like acting half the time when he was talking like this. That wasn't his real voice. That's not how he talked. And then every once in a while, like when he didn't know cameras around, he's just talking like a normal human. Like he's just like, oh yeah, hey, like I need to go get a drink of water. I'm kind of thirsty. Like, what's our plans for the rest of the day? Like, yeah, can we maybe fit in a little lunch break in between then and that? And then all of a sudden the camera's on. He's like, hi, I'm Michael Jackson.
Yeah. It's like Brittany Griner from the WNBA, where you see her playing and everything, and you're like, oh, that's Brittany Griner. And then she's interviewed and they're like, Brittany, how do you think the game went? Well, I think it went pretty good. Like, you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's your voice. I don't understand why. I don't understand why anybody believes she's a woman.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not even like, the trans question or anything like that. I think I've talked about this. Have I talked about the fact that there's a video out there of her shooting hoops at like a poolside basketball hoop? She's topless, shooting hoops, and then makes a basket, turns to the camera and is like, da 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 da. And like, she has a voice where it would take you a decade of medicine to get your voice that low. Turns to the camera though, no sign of breasts. I'm not even talking like, it's questionable whether or not. No, like she looked like an anime man.
Yeah.
Like
but I believe she's a lady because she's 6'9" and can't dunk.
Oh, I saw that video just like 2 days ago of
she's 6'9" and can't dunk.
It was like an ESPN thing where they've got some commentator out there with her hucking her balls and she's going and like keeps trying. She keeps bricking it. I did hear a rumor that, when because she was in Russia, stuck in Russia in a prison in Russia because she went over there with marijuana, which you don't do, which I was kind of like,
it was a THC vape of all, like, it's even worse.
Oh,
it was vape. And
so she's stuck in a jail over there. And I heard a rumor that Russia like did a test. But it's just a rumor. Like, it's never been confirmed. It's Russia. So my guess would be this. My guess is they did a test and they know.
Yeah, they know.
But they're going to hide it because, she is a woman and Russia's like, we know.
She wears a size, so this is on her Wikipedia. She wears a size 17 in men's shoes.
Okay.
Not women's 17. That's a man. Like, if you've ever seen a man's 17, like, that is ginormous.
Had I never seen her topless, I still would be this vehement about the fact that, why does it matter? Why does it matter? The question is, why do you need to know, Sam? Well, the thing is, they're like the Olympic Committee just said, hey, last year we watched a male boxer dome piece a woman in the Olympics. So, and they made new rules. They were like, if you're a biological male, you won't be competing in women's events.
Mm-hmm.
That's, to me, that's the thing is, but the problem is the WNBA is never going to look into it because Brittany Griner is like a stratospheric star. Any way you look at it. I mean, she could suck for the next decade, but she's a tent stake peg. What? She's a underpinning of the WNBA. So there's never going to be an outing. It's wild to me though. Like, go look that video up. You can find it anywhere. Go look it up. It just put in like Brittany Griner pool
Can't dunk.
Not that one. The Brittany Griner poolside one.
You just don't like that video because it just proves that she might actually be a woman.
It doesn't.
If you're 6'9" and can't dunk.
Oh, that one. Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's mean. Now, see, what I'm saying is rooted in like pure question, right? You're being mean.
I'm just saying.
Like mine is.
I know it doesn't look like it, but I grew up, when I was growing up, ball was life. Like, I don't look like an athlete, but I played a lot of basketball to the point where when people see me shoot a basketball, people look at me like, what the hell? I literally had people come up and go, I didn't know you knew how to play basketball. I'm like, thanks for just judging me by my fat gut.
Do you ever say things like, Rainmaker, when you shoot a three?
I just yell, Kobe.
No, I'm truly go. I want people to fight with me on this one. I want people to go watch the poolside video of Brittany Griner shooting hoops at the poolside basket. And then she turns to the camera after making one, topless,
and goes James Earl Jones on everyone.
Whatever she says, I'm not even quite sure. I want somebody to make the argument. I want to hear the argument. It's impossible. There's no way. Don't look at it at work. Here's why. Like,
Marissa,
there's nothing NSFW about
because she I think she identifies as trans.
Does she?
I'm pretty sure she had top surgery, which is why she's topless.
So that's the thing is, if you watch the video, there are no scars. There's no, and I could be wrong. I haven't looked into that. But with top surgery, typically there are scars because the breast tissue was taken out. Areola reassignment is a thing, and it typically doesn't look all too natural. I'm pretty sure, like, you could pause it. Don't do it at work, but watch the video and pause it. There are no scars, and I realize there's probably they do breast implants through the armpit, so I'm confident that they could do it in another way. But I've never heard anything. There's never been any publicizing of her going through any kind of transition surgery or anything.
Yeah. I just tried to Google it and there's nothing.
There's nothing.
She does identify as being lesbian is the closest thing I can find.
Yeah, but that's like, that's a hallmark of the WNBA.
Yeah.
like
it's weird if you're not.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're white and straight, you're going to get murdered on the court. That's basically what we know now. Man, I'm sure I'm making people mad right now, but just go fight with me on this one. Go watch the video, and I want to hear your excuse. I want to hear you tell me, because we're bereft of public information. I want your eyes to look at this and just be like, no, I can see it.
Your eyes
like, okay, I just
Use
want
all
someone to
your
be
olfactory senses on this.
commit. Like, I want somebody who truly believes she's a female to watch all that and then commit to it. I'll respect you.
We have some in the back door. I looked at it and I feel so embarrassed and confused about my life now.
I'm telling you, I agree. Like, it's so weird. Anyway, why have I gone on about this so long? I've got another This Is True thing for you.
Let it go. Let all the tension go.
It feels like one of those moments where I have to like be like, look, I'm like a 4-year-old when it comes to these kinds of things. I'm so inquisitive and curious. That sigh, that exhale was like, okay, do I need to say I'm not anti-trans. I have trans friends. Do I need to say that
Do
right
you
now?
say I
Like,
have trans friends?
I'm not racist. I have black friends. That exhale was like, okay, do I need to? Is this the time for the
Listen,
disclaimer?
it's not like anyone said anything about, oh, we don't like it or you can't be that or like we've never. It's just we're just talking about are they like because it's not a
No
big
one's going to
deal.
ever look into it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're not going to look into it and there's not going to be a vetting and we're just all cool with it, then you can't disparage people that are questioning it, because all the evidence says the WNBA is either okay with men in the league or it's just a non-topic, and I think both could be true. Like the WNBA, I don't know if there's other like biological males in the league. I don't know their stance on it. I don't think they've ever taken a stance. It'd be kind of iffy territory.
Yeah.
But the W in the WNBA would make you think that they'd have a certain take on it. And I'd be okay with the take if they're like, look, we're not going to look into it. We don't care. I'd be like, okay, at least you're saying it, and I might feel a different way like I do about the Olympics. I'm like, if you're giving brain damage to women in boxing in the Olympics,
Luther says there's no men, trans
there's
or
no,
otherwise.
so they say that, but no. See, but that to me, that's different. To say there's no men is like climate activists saying the science is settled.
Mhm.
What I want to know is what's the rigor, right? What's the rigor behind that? If you're saying there are no men, what process? Is there a process? Do they have to
Well, he
confirm
said
it?
you can trace. He said all of them have been traced back through high school and college.
And you know what?
And
I'll concede.
college is very much more because it just happened like what this last year there was the first ever trans athlete in women's
The
college. It was a volleyball player.
NC2A.
Yeah, and a bunch of the teams there are actually teams that
They'd skip it.
forfeited. Yeah,
Yeah,
they would literally just not show. They would just no show. They would take a team vote and then just say, "Now we're good forfeiting this one."
yeah.
And then they would just not show up. So I think if like all these women played in college, like it would have come out in college that there was a trans person playing basketball in college.
Yeah, and
If
you
they're
would
making
think,
that big of a deal about a D2, volleyball player, if it's a D1 basketball player, which I guarantee 99% of the women in the WNBA played D1, it would have
they're
been a
vetted.
story. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
have been a thing.
And I'm willing to concede. I'm willing to concede that she's a physical anomaly. I'm just saying like that anomaly is like, I don't know, 1 in a billion is that anomaly. It's just like in the WNBA, there isn't even another anomaly that comes close to Brittany Griner. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like there might be someone with a low voice and there might be someone that's got the height. And there might be someone who, I mean, and it sounds kind of callous to say there might be somebody that shows no sign of breast tissue, but it's a trifecta. I'll concede if if there's enough evidence, if it goes back far enough, and I'm just amazed. I'm impressed if she's a woman. Anyway, let me move on. It was all caught on security camera video. This is true. An elderly man stomped into the steel rail tattoo shop in Irvine, Kentucky. The man's 16-year-old grandson was already at the shop, and the older man pointed at the boy and declared, "You better not get that tattoo. You better not. I'm telling you right now," to the 16-year-old who was already at the shop. And then turned to the shop owner and continued, "You better not put it on him, or this place is going to get sued." Then the man ratcheted things up. "I don't want that mess all over him, like the mess you got on you," he said to the heavily tattooed shop owner, Brad Brooks, and then threw down his whole card. He said he's a Steele County Judge Executive, Donnie Watson, and if his grandson gets a tat, he'll push through a law to make it illegal to tattoo anyone under 18. That tipped the confrontation to an abuse of power. In fact, the boy had already received his new tattoo, which is legal for a 16-year-old in Kentucky with parental permission. His father was also in the shop to give that permission. So what was the relation? Oh, his grandson. So this dude's the grandpa. And he's saying, "You better not." But the dad was in there with the son, and he gave the permission. So the video went viral, and voters are calling for Watson to resign as Steele County Judge Executive. Now, I don't really know what is an Steele County Judge Executive? Does that mean he's a judge? You know, I don't know exactly. But anyway, so yeah, they were calling for his resignation. I'm all for that. Like, I think the abuse of power is one of the most disgusting things. I don't know why, but I kind of expect it with like state senators and, Congress and House members. Like, they're all rich. They weren't before. They all make like $170,000 a year, but then they all end up being millionaires. I kind of expect it because things are that corrupt. What really bothers me are like local representatives, like, city council members speeding and then trying to get out of it because they're like, "Don't you know who I am? I'm city council representative."
Here's the thing. My dad's a city council representative. It's not that big of a deal, guys. Like, when people are like, "I'm a city council representative," it's like, literally my dad became a city council representative to basically fight against developers. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I did it, because he's just like, that's illegal.
Yeah.
But the city council keeps passing things
Yeah.
because they're buddies. So my dad's like, screw it. He ran for it, got on, and he's just like, "Okay, now I'm going to stand up for the actual citizens against the developers." But it's just like, but yeah, there's a lot of people like, "I'm on city council." It's like, and erase my ticket. Why? You're just a normal person. Like, big freaking whoop-de-doo. You're on city council.
I love it when, like your dad, I love it when people are on city council to serve.
Yeah.
It bothers, like, you see, there's tons of viral videos of like citizens at the podium, and they're talking to the city council members, and they're accusing the city council members of abuse or ignoring the citizens' complaints or whatever, and watching the city council people that are so smug. Like I watched one just the other day where the lady at the podium was like, "You need to look at me. Look at me. Stop talking amongst yourselves and getting on your phone when I'm talking."
Yeah.
Like, it's the weird thing about city council is it's like a lot of them are full of these people that are like, why are you like
the city council my dad's on is full of those kind of people too. Where it's just like, I get to tell you what to do. You don't get to like, that's how some of those city council people are. It's like, no, they did it because they wanted to feel in control. They wanted to feel a little bit of power. And it's just like, that's not the reason why you should be doing it.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of a gross generalization to be like, that's why a lot of those people get those positions. But it like, take something else, like take something where a natural progression is the market decides. on whether or not you're good at your job or not. Like at 11:59, the market decides whether or not I'm serving the subscriber well. And if I don't, like, I'll be honest, I have not put 911 calls out as efficiently and as regularly as I should.
But it's okay because you've been keeping up with the Neverdailies.
But even there, okay, the market decides because we record this show. But then if I suck, as I have with releasing the episodes publicly, I should expect to see our subscriber numbers go down, both public and through Patreon, right? Like I worry about that. Even when I'm failing, I'm like, oh, you're doing it to yourself, dude. You're hurting your own thing. But when you're like a city council member, you can see it in their eyes. They're like, I'm going to be able to weather you, Mrs. Lady at the podium, and I'm going to be able to weather everybody for the next couple of years until it gets so bad that I'm ejected. But for the time being, I'm cool with it because I'm making more money or whatever. Like it's weird to think to see it as like they treat it like it's a firework. They're like, yeah, I see that you lit the fuse and it's heading toward exploding my career as a city council, but I'm okay with it because that fuse is pretty long. Like in my business, I see that somebody lit the fuse by like canceling their Patreon or our numbers go down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to fix my actions to make this not happen. Not so with local government.
Yeah.
Primarying someone out of local
down.
government's hard.
Yeah. It's usually a doubling down of the bad behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. I got one more and then we can move on. It's Tuesday, right? So, okay, music is next episode.
That's next time.
Atria Senior Living in Falmouth, 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 Falmouth?
Sure.
Massachusetts.
Or you're just supposed to put in your own swear word.
Yeah, you could just put in whatever you want right there.
Yeah, it's a directive. It's not the actual name. It's just telling you. You can call it whatever you want as long as it's a bad word.
Okay, so I'll do it again. Atria Senior Living in Massachusetts. You can decide on what I said. Emailed Bradford Kelly. So the senior living facility in this Massachusetts town, they emailed Bradford Kelly to demand his father's October 2024 rent. Kelly's father did not live in the facility that month. He had died in September, and they were asking for October's rent. Quote, he wasn't there one day in October. Why would he owe for October? Kelly said. Atria explained that the lease that had been signed requires 30 days notice to quit. Atria does not expect residents to predict when they will pass, so when someone does, they're not required to give written notice because the date of passing pushes the notice automatically. Its business director wrote, Kelly ended up getting, quote, calls and letters to me, almost harassing me for the money. But after he reached out to a TV station, the company decided it didn't need to be paid the $8,036.77 after all. So they were okay smacking this guy around about his poor dead dad until the TV station got wind of it.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden it's bad press.
Yeah. So Bradford Kelly says, I hope this helps other people out there so they don't have to go through a similar thing, Kelly said. 2 Massachusetts legislators have now proposed bills that would limit or eliminate post-mortem rent at such facilities. This could have all been avoided if someone had checked with the appointed scheduler. Don't you think? Like, oh man.
And the thing that pisses me off about that kind of stuff though is like they put like that funeral home not funeral home, but the old folks home pushed and pushed and pushed. And then only after it might look bad, this is all a big misunderstanding. It's like that's not what your 8 emails
right
said before that. Like, and it's just like, well, And then it's just like, well, the person who was involved in that, they've been disciplined, and that doesn't reflect. No, they were told to do that. It's in your policies. Like
Yeah.
they literally are doing the job you told them to do. And then they act like everyone's just supposed to be like, well, it was just a misunderstanding. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
When the
no,
TV found out about it.
misunderstanding doesn't happen 8 times in a row. Like that's
It
not a misunderstanding.
it
That's
reminds me,
policy.
it's kind of like my view on government, where it's like government isn't the government, it's my neighbor.
Yeah.
That's who, right? And so if you take it and you make like a little The Office episode out of it, it's like this. It's like somebody sitting at a desk gets the thing and they're like, Bradford Kelly's dad died in September. The lease is still. So the episode walks, like they go from their desk to their boss and they're like, hey, so the lease is still is not expired yet. Bradford Kelly's dad did expire in September. What do we do? And the boss is like, oh, second, let me plus so the lease expires at 30 days. No, send him a bill.
Yeah.
And the guy from the guy or gal from the desk is like, you want me to send a bill? The guy's dead. Nah, that's what our policy says. Oh, okay. So when they say no, what? You keep pushing on it. That's what our policy says.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. It's people. It's people
Yeah.
doing this.
Well, we got to follow. It's written down. We got to follow it. We got to follow the policy. This is a policy.
It ratchets up. It ratchets up, Wendy. If you don't send the bill, I told you what the policy says. I'm going to get in trouble from my higher ups.
Yeah.
You know? Suddenly we're living in some Russian weird system. You want to see that happen exactly like that. Well, what do I do? Well, do what I say. Because if you don't do what I say, it reflects poorly on me, and I don't want my boss. If you want to see that play out in exquisite fashion, go watch the TV series Chernobyl. Like, you will see the reason why that meltdown happened, because there was an ideological and political meltdown that led to the actual literal meltdown of people like saying, I'm watching you. I'm your boss. I'm watching you. Do what I say. If you don't, then it looks bad on me. And my boss is watching me.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Such a good show. Or as Liz in the back door says, such a good show. It's true, Liz. It's such a good show.
Yeah, I worked in construction. Everything's in management. Everything's about cover your own ass.
I heard somebody say the other day, the most dangerous person in an executive meeting is the one that doesn't require being liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. I think maybe that I would like to say that's the reason why I got fired a lot was because I never was a yes man. I never felt like, I don't know. I was talking the other day. We were at Thanksgiving and Sam 2.0 was there, and I was talking about guestnicity. And he's like, well, you've gotten in trouble on guestnicity before. I'm like, I have? And he's like, yeah, remember when you were talking about a certain time schedule? I was like, oh, you mean CP time? And he's like, yeah, you said it on the show. And I was like, yeah, I did. Did I make people mad? He's like, you can't say that, Dad. I'm like, it's not in my brain to not say things.
Yeah.
Oh, Luther says I didn't get in trouble. Well, Sam, I remember clearly Sam messaged me. He's like, I'm taking that out of the episode. I'm like, why? Why are you taking it out? He's like, you can't say that. It's Luther's show and you can't say that. And I was like, I don't know.
Have you ever been to Hawaii?
Luther in the back
That's literally something they're proud about. They call it Hawaiian time.
I think it was because I think I said CP time and I also said colored people time, which is the you know, I don't know.
Every time I hear that, I just have a replay of The Office.
They said that on the show.
They're not called collared people, Stanley. When Michael says that, and Stanley's just like, "What the hell?" He thought it had to do with just collard greens.
Now I need to tell you, I'm hypersensitive about something. Somebody left a review for the show on Spotify, and they said, as an audio only listener, there are a lot of pregnant pauses, like quiet moments. And I don't think about them as much as I used to when we were audio only. I was always hypersensitive. I'm like, there's too much silence, you know, and I'd go and edit out the silence and stuff. But now that we're on video, I don't think about the pauses as much. But then it also makes me think, and Chase, you're a big sports guy, so you might relate with this. There are certain sports commentators where on their AM radio show or their radio show, they would do something like, and they never called the foul. I don't know why they didn't, but I clearly remember like turning to a sports radio show and hearing commentators that had such long pauses that I'd get on the radio station and I'd catch it in a pause. I'd be like, oh no, is the radio station down? And like 7 seconds later, then somebody says something. It makes me think of that, you know, it's like.
Well, I think Paul Harvey used to do that too at some stuff. He would leave these big, huge, pregnant pauses. Like he would ask a hypothetical question and then he would just leave a big pause and almost give you time to think about it.
I don't know if I ever told you. I think I might have told you. Did I tell you that I've got all of the rest of the stories that were ever done?
You probably got off the same Tor browser I did.
I might have. I might have.
Not that I do that. That was a long time ago, Chase.
Just to give you an idea of how many there are, I have them alphabetized. Just the folder for the letter W has 167. The rest of the stories in it. I also learned something kind of interesting because one of my favorite podcasts, Lore, has another podcast called, he's got Aaron Mahnke. He's got I don't like the guy necessarily as much. I disagree with him ideologically on some things, but I love his shows. And I think that's a superpower that most of us should gain in the industry, is you can love a creator's work and not necessarily, maybe you don't have to align with them on everything. But he's got another show called Cabinet of Curiosities, and I loved it so much that I bought the premium, like, you know, $5 a month or whatever. And at one point he does an interview with somebody and they were like, so where did the idea for Cabinet of Curiosities come up? And he's like, well, I love this little known show called The Rest of the Story. And I'm like, what? That's the origin story of no wonder I like it so much, because the rest of the story is so good.
That was my favorite thing when I would come on the radio. I was like, everyone shut up, Paul Harvey's on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
I'm Paul Harvey.
And
good day.
The rest
Remember
of
when
the
he would do the good day? And it would always be like in the form of a question.
Yeah.
Good day.
His son started doing them. And I believe his son even started doing some of them before his death. And
I also like Paul Harvey's whistle.
He's got that whistle.
He's got the whistle.
It's so good. One of the things that's kind of a bummer is, like, I think I grew up in an era where I still knew a lot of the people he was talking about. But like a lot of his stuff is about people from another time period. And so the rest of the story really works when we're talking about people from that you can relate, you can identify. Like if I did the rest of the story and it was this crazy story and at the end I'm like, and that little girl was Ariana Grande, and that's the rest of the story, everybody be like, what? But if I do one nowadays and I'm like, and that man was Walter Hagen, people are like, who? I don't care, you know. So some of his stuff is kind of relegated to a museum of amazing stories about people nobody cares about anymore.
Nobody has any idea ever existed before.
So good. So good. All right. Well, I'll stop talking. Chase, what did you bring today?
I brought some stuff about jobs that were so bad they don't even exist anymore. Part of that's technology. Part of it's because of how many people died for no reason doing these jobs.
It's like dirty jobs, but
Yeah, but like olden times edition.
okay.
So, like, a lot of times even though we complain a lot, like first world problems, we have it pretty good compared to a lot of people. Like, there's like OSHA, which I complain about OSHA. I think they go too far, but there's certain things that OSHA does that are good for everybody. I can admit that.
Yeah.
It's hard, but I can admit that. There's like, there's things like, it's mandatory your employer pay you overtime. They can't force you to work, too many hours without breaks. Like every state has break laws and lunch
Yeah.
laws and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so like back in the day, those things didn't happen at all. You just either did the job and got paid or you didn't have a job.
Or you're in the food line.
And there was no recourse. Like there was
Right.
no like complaining, well, my employer's really mean to me on Tuesdays. Like
Yeah.
there was none of that. So here's one of the jobs.
Okay.
Back in the 1800s, doctors thought leeches could cure everything for some reason. And I
They
mean,
sure did.
they thought leeches could cure everything. Got a headache? Leeches. Broken arm? Leeches. Your wife's mad at you? Probably you need some leeches in your life.
I think that has to do with humors. Like they really believed that the humors were a big part of your physiology.
Yeah, blood and bile. You don't have enough bile in you.
Yeah, or too much blood.
And so, like, when you need a lot of leeches, you got to have people that go out and get leeches, right?
Oh yeah, I
So,
never thought of that.
so there was a job, leech collecting. And how do you go out? You don't just have a little net and scoop them up. No, what you do is you just get naked and walk into leech infested water and let them attach. That's how they'd roll up their pants, wade into the water, and just stand there while leeches attached to them, sucking all the bloods out. Then they'd pull them off and put them in a bag, and then they'd sell them. Like that was the entire job. Stand in a swamp, be a leech magnet, a human leech magnet, and repeat. Um, they'd actually like some of these people worked so many hours they would actually get dizzy and fall over from multiple things like blood loss, infections, communicable diseases,
Jeez.
and so like this was in the 1800s. Germs and disease, like they didn't really fully understand what they were dealing with. So these people were getting just about any infection you can imagine from standing in stagnant, smelly-ass water with open wounds. Who would have thought that that would make you sick?
Kind of ironic that the people collecting leeches for healing people were dying from the
Yeah,
effects of
leeches. Yeah. But, hey, the pay was probably horrible too. So there's that, at least, I guess. And it only existed because of the doctors paying money for leeches. And it's like if someone today was like, you know what cures cancer? Mosquitoes. We need more mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So like that's like the equivalent of putting leeches on your body thinking you're doing anything at all. Not to say that there aren't bugs used in medicine. Like they actually use medical grade maggots to clean wounds because for some reason they only eat dead flesh.
Oh,
So they do not eat live flesh. So there are actually like medical grade maggots. And I actually believe that they do use leeches now in
Oh, yeah.
some instances to promote blood flow.
Yep.
And so like there are medical grade leeches, but we use them differently than what they were like. We're not like, here, this leech is going to cure your ED. Slap it on there, bud.
Yeah, no. I they do. They use leeches in grafting oftentimes to reintroduce blood flow to an area. Grafting, I want to say maybe in like limb replacement and stuff like that, where they need to make sure blood
Yeah.
flows.
So yeah, wonderful leeches.
Crazy.
Next job, I think we've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but we have the radium girls. My wife read a book about this. She had to for one of her classes, for her dental hygiene class, when they were doing like going over X-rays and that kind of stuff. There's actually a dentist who figured out what was going on with the radium girls,
Well, yeah.
because their jaws were falling off. That happens apparently radiation poisoning is bad for you. So these ladies were literally hand painting on radium onto watch faces And in order to get the really fine lines, they had to keep licking the brush. And then, so they'd lick the brush, dip it in the radium paint, paint it on, lick the brush. Like it was just all day, right? They're
Yeah.
literally just licking radium all day. And yeah, their literal jaws fell off. Their teeth will fall out just at random. And their employers knew about it at one point. They're like, oh yeah, it's the radium. Like, we know what's going on, but we're just going to keep that little secret to ourselves.
Yeah.
The executives started wearing things like lead shields around and protective equipment. And they're like, yeah, just keep doing your job while they're like covering up their genitals. Like, it's okay. It's safe. Why won't you come near me? Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yeah. I guess that's it. It has always worried me. I'm like, why are you wearing a lead smock?
Yeah. Why are you wearing all this
Why are-
protective equipment? Don't worry about it. It's a medical thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting leeches later. Don't worry about it. So yeah, we're talking about brain damage, bone cancer, everything. Like literally, like if you go look at some of the pictures, Google it. Like there's ladies who are missing literally the bottom half of their face.
Yeah.
Like their jaw's gone. Like their bones literally just melted out of their skull. So
It's
yeah,
funny.
that was a thing.
You'll see those, and then you're kind of like, oh wait, I saw a horror movie where the killer tore someone's bottom jaw off, and then they died on the ground, and you start realizing you're like, there's a lot of your head that you don't need.
No.
Like,
No.
crazy.
But hey, at least people could tell time at 1 a.m. on their watch.
Yeah,
So
right.
that was worth
Ooh.
it, right?
Yeah.
If I asked you what you thought a lime burner was, what would you say?
Lime burner?
Lime burner. That's the next job.
I have no idea. It sounds like something maybe a really good margarita artist does.
Maybe. Get a nice smoky flavor to your drinks.
Like a nutty. I don't know. I don't know.
So back in the medieval days, they needed lime to make really strong walls, the kind that could stop these newfangled things called cannonballs. So they needed, in order to make good concrete and good walls and good mortar, you need lime. We're not talking about limes like the vegetable, the fruits. We're talking about like the stone, limestone. So you heat limestone in these giant ovens called lime kilns to get the lime out that you need to make your mortar to make walls stronger, okay? And then what would happen though is when you're burning this stuff, a lot of toxic fumes emanate, and you're tending an oven where toxic fumes are billowing out, and you don't have respirators, you don't have oxygen.
No.
So basically, guys would just sit there, and ladies would just shovel in the lime, and then the fumes, they would inhale the fumes, and guess what? Sometimes they would pass out, and if you pass out near an oven, you'd usually just fall into it, or you are laying on the ground and continuing to breathe in the toxic fumes while it's passed out. So
Yeah.
usually people would die, and if you didn't die, you could go blind and become paralyzed. So, yeah, super important job though. So they're like, we need more walls, so just send the poor people to do it, and that's what happened. You would just stand by ovens, throwing lime in,
I've
and,
always
and
wondered,
die.
because lime is used in so many things, but it's also so toxic.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered this, and so I just Googled it, and the answer is yes. You've heard of lye, Lye?
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered, and I've just been lazy and never asked the question: is it associated with lime? And the answer is yes. Lime, or calcium hydroxide, was used to produce lye
Mm-hmm.
from wood ashes or potash through a chemical reaction. Today, lime and lye are distinct chemicals. Lime is primarily calcium-based, while lye is sodium or potassium hydroxide. And it's one of those chemical magic recipes where I'm like, how did you get there? Like,
So yeah, they were making the lye stuff and burning lime and mixing it with wood ash. You're burning it causes the sodium hydroxide, which apparently is not good for you to breathe in.
and that we were using it before we really understood the chemical attributes, the chemistry behind it, blows my mind, because to get hydroxide out of that process. It's a multi-step process. So I'm always intrigued by that kind of thing where it's like,
Mhm.
how did you accidentally do 4 steps of something and have it end up in another thing
Here,
and you're like, hey, it's stronger.
here's a cool thing. When I used to work at the water plant, we would use lime in the water
Oh,
to bring to make sure it wasn't too acidic. So if it was too acidic, you would put lime in because you don't want your water to be too acidic leaving a plant because it's going through pipes and it could break down those pipes if
huh.
it's acidic and cause things like rust, and rust isn't good for you. So we'd put lime in, or calcium, right? And
Right.
it actually coats the pipes
Oh,
with something that's, because lime itself is edible, it's food safe, like
oh, I
food
didn't know
grade
that.
lime.
Okay.
And so it's actually coating some of the older metal pipes and preventing rust from getting in your water. But it's a dance, because if you put in too much, then you get too much buildup and then it slows your flows down. But you want to have a little bit of, a buildup to prevent the rust from getting into your water and other things, because there's actually like a rust, um it's like a bacteria that feeds on rust,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and so that's horrible for you. So the lime coats the pipes, prevents the bacteria from forming that's eating rust, because there's no rust, because the lime is, it's a big whole thing. But it's just weird how, yeah, we figure these things out over time.
And that we know it, and that we know, okay, it's okay for the pipes, but
Mhm.
uh, uh but also it's a balance because you don't want too much, although it hurts. But and that the end consumer, they're like, how's that for people? And they're like, oh, that's all right, that's all
Yeah.
right.
Like all the bags I would have, it literally says on it food grade lime. Like
That's
it
so
literally says
interesting.
food grade on it. Like that's the only stuff we could put in. And yeah, it's just calcium. Like it's basically just calcium. Like it helps the water not be acidic. So it brings up the pH.
It reminds me of a short headline / did you know thing I saw the other day of a woman who her significant other felt scorned. And so I think it had to do with the mafia or like a mob kind of thing or a cartel. And he was mad at her. So he had one of his people throw lye
Hmm.
on her face. And years later, they got back together. Oh, it was his ex-wife. And then it like somehow him doing that rekindled their relationship and they got back
Hmm.
together like 7 years later. I was like,
Hmm.
that's weird.
Now that, oh, remember I sent you that video of when I said I was putting the dehydrated water when I was making water, and I put the white powder in and I sent you a video of it
Yeah.
into the big vat? That was lime. Like,
Oh, really?
and so, but that's the thing is like, before anyone freaks out, like the tube that was feeding, it was in a mixture, right?
Yeah.
It was a 50-pound bag, in like a 2,000-gallon tank,
Mm.
and that, like, it's being fed through a tube that's like a half-inch tube.
Like like
So we're talking like it's
a
literally
boba straw.
Yeah, it's literally like, imagine like treating like an Olympic swimming pool with one bag of lime. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not even like, it's even more diluted than that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's so infinitesimal that
That you're
you
not.
don't even have to worry about it. Like that's what they always say, dilution is the solution. That's always, and if you've worked in any water treatment, whether you're making drinking water or cleaning gross water, dilution is the solution.
It's also a great way
So
to hide things.
yeah, it is. All right, enough of talk about limes.
Okay, fine.
So if I said mule scavenger, what do you think that job was? What do you think a mule scavenger did?
I think of wolves.
If you would have said wovens instead of wolves, you would have been close.
What's a woven?
Or woolens,
woolen or woven?
because this was at cotton factories and looms.
Oh, okay.
So mule scavengers worked at looms, and the huge spinning machines, like especially in cotton production, it's called a mule. So it's the machine. But when you're making like spinning the cotton into making like strands and stuff, like some falls on the floor, right? Falls through if it falls out of the machine. So the factory owners are like, hey, we don't want to waste that little bit of cotton that's fallen out of there. So let's collect that. But we can't slow down production. We're going to leave the machines on. But these are really tight spaces we're dealing with. So what do you think they did? Who do you think was sent down in there into a running large heavy machinery to gather up scraps of cotton?
Oh, in that part, because I'm stuck thinking of the shuttle. I don't know if you've seen the shuttle. It's
Oh,
this wooden thing that they launch through
yeah.
a loom to
hmm
weave.
So
It's
this is when they're
amazing.
making the threads.
Oh, when they're making the thread.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is just refuse cotton at the bottom kind of thing.
hmm
Uh, Canaries?
5-year-olds.
5-year-olds. Yeah, that
Because,
was my next guess.
those trustworthy 5-year-olds who always do everything you always tell them to do. So they sent them into these machines that are still running.
Gosh.
Hey, pick up the little fibers on the ground and bring them back. Yeah. So sometimes you have these little kids army crawling under giant spinning machines trying to grab cotton fibers while massive mechanical parts are whirring around inches above their heads. What do you think happened if they got stood up a little too tall?
They weren't there anymore.
Yeah, they died. But it's
Ah,
okay because there's lots of 5-year-olds. So they would just send another one in. So yeah,
jeez.
that was a thing for a long time in cotton mills. So yeah, just be glad you weren't ever a mule scavenger. What about coal trappers? What do you think coal trappers did?
They trapped coal.
Yes. So basically, mines, we're talking about mining now,
Okay.
obviously with coal, but they had these little doors throughout the tunnels that were supposed to control airflow and prevent gas explosions. Someone had to sit next to each door and open it and close it when carts came through. And they gave this job to children because they were small enough to fit in the tight spaces next to the doors. We couldn't just make it bigger for a fully grown adult to stand there and do this job. We're just like, no, let's just make it small and put a small person in there to deal with it. And they specifically use little girls for some reason. It doesn't say why. Maybe, I don't know. They're smarter than little boys, so
Well,
maybe that was part of it.
I not to introduce an uncomfortable topic, but is this Asia?
No, this is all over.
Oh, I was going to say because for a long time, you know, around the time of the two children rule in China,
Yeah,
little girls were much more
they were second
disposable.
second class citizens.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, they're just little girls sitting there opening, closing these doors. And here's the kicker. The doors were supposed to prevent dangerous gas buildup, but they actually caused it. They concentrated the gases exactly where the kids were sitting. So they were just breathing it in until they died. And meanwhile, the mine operators up top are going, well, little Susie hasn't opened that door in a while. I guess we need a new little Susie.
So they were kind of like canaries in the coal mine, more like
Yeah.
Clorinda in the coal mine, though.
Clorinda's in the coal mine. Yeah.
Kathy in the coal mine. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's kind of a bad thing. The next one is very self-explanatory. Ice cutters. Before refrigerators were a thing, if you wanted ice, someone had to go out and get it for you, naturally made in
Yeah,
lakes and stuff.
I've seen Frozen.
So it's a very dangerous job because you're standing on ice and cutting pieces out and trying not to fall through. And it's freezing, and you're using saws, picks, standing on a lake, cutting perfect rectangles just so Jim Bob could have a cold beer after work later. And a lot of
Yeah.
people fell in. A lot of people got hypothermia. A lot of people got frostbite. And a lot of people died from that. But, gotta have your ice. Gotta have your little cool drinks in the summer times.
Yeah. The thing is, we all needed it. There was a reason there were so many people. Like we oftentimes we look at the brutality of like people that died doing a certain job, but everyone used coal.
hmm
We still use it.
Yeah.
We just, before we had machinery, men had to go do the thing for the hard
Yeah.
stuff. It's weird. It's
So,
kind of,
what can you tell me about petardiers?
oh yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know. All I know is that there's a phrase that's supposed to be kind of an offensive phrase where someone was hoisted up on their petard.
Yeah, that was from Bill Shakespeare wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So petardiers, it was a job in the French army. These guys, their job was to plant explosive devices called petards, which were basically big metal balls full of gunpowder. So what they would do is they'd sneak up to enemy walls, attach this 5-pound bomb to it, light a fuse, and then run away. Except, actual battles taking place all around you while this is happening, and people are shooting guns and throwing lit oil and stuff and doing, all sorts of cool stuff. Cannons are blowing up around you. So yeah, in Shakespeare, he hoisted by his own petard. It basically means you're blown up by your own bomb. Like
Oh.
you did this to yourself.
Oh, that makes sense. I always thought it was like being on a grandstand or something like that, but hoisted up by your own petard is literally
You were-
launched into the air.
Yeah, you were
from your
blown
own
up
bomb.
by your own bomb is literally what it, because yeah, you're hoisting, you're just flying through the air because of the bomb you were carrying.
That's a fun visual now. I mean, it's very apropos. It's
Mhm. So yeah,
interesting.
eventually they started shooting these explosives from a distance. So they had, incendiary rounds and explosive rounds. That's kind of where that came from, was petards,
Yeah.
where people used to have to hand deliver them like they were a pizza delivery guy.
Wow.
And sometimes, gunpowder blows up and fuses weren't that great. And yeah. Next, we have a gong farmer. What do you think they farm? Gong. Gong farmers.
It makes me think of a documentary that I watched a while back on Zildjian, which makes the cymbals for drums,
Oldest company in the world.
and they bury them. They bury the cymbals, and there's actually some kind of chemical process that converts the copper or brass or whatever they're using. But I don't think that's right in this case. 'Cause
No,
these are
there was
gongs.
things that were buried, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't symbols.
Or gongs.
So these were guys who cleaned out medieval toilets and sewers.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
We're not talking about modern sewers. These were holes in the ground that people had been using for decades. Decades.
Yeah.
So they had to crawl down into these pits and shovel out years of poops. No ventilation, so you're breathing in toxic gases while you're working. Plus, the structures weren't exactly what we'd call stable, so you're down in this pit shoveling shit, and the walls could just fall in on you and bury you.
Wow.
Just at any second. The best part was, nobody wanted to be around these guys when they weren't working, so they all lived together or alone because they constantly smelled like their job.
Yeah,
no matter what they did.
I was a sandwich artist at Subway, and my friends would always say, "Why you smell like onions?"
Yeah. Smell like onions.
I couldn't imagine being a gong farmer.
Well, my wife worked her whole high school career at the movie theater, and she still won't eat popcorn.
Oh yeah,
She's just like, I can't. She's like, I just can't do it. I can't.
I worked at two movie theaters, the Egyptian and there was this other theater downtown, and they were like a couple blocks from each other. So if you were employed, you worked at both.
Mhm.
And there were times where I'd work at one and have to run from ticket taking at one. Like I was the ticket taker when Titanic was playing. I'd tear the tickets and be like, "Welcome to the show. The ship sinks. Welcome to the show. The ship sinks." And then I would finish doing that and I'd run to the other theater to do some other job. And I smelled like buttery topping.
Yep. All the times.
All the time.
So here's the next job. What do you think a powder monkey does?
I feel like that is if I had to guess, I feel like that is a male internet influencer who shows off makeup.
Yes. We're back to kids and
Crap.
indentured servitude. Navy ships this time. Their job was to carry gunpowder around during battles. So kids were small enough to run through tight spaces on a ship, and they needed to pay their dues in order to join the Navy if they wanted to be on the crew. So during naval battles, while cannons are firing and the ship is getting shot at and all those fun things. These kids are running around with bags of gunpowder strapped to them. Why do you think they were doing that? They weren't delivering it to any. I mean, occasionally they were delivering it to where it was needed. But the whole point was to keep the gunpowder moving around on the ship so it wouldn't all explode at one time if it got hit.
It was
That
to
was the
keep
whole
it kind
point.
of distributed
Distributed.
or diffused.
Yeah, so they would literally strap the gunpowder to these kids, and then they would literally just run around in circles on the ship, keeping a distance from each other,
Wow.
so that all the gunpowder wasn't blown up at one time, like a stray cannon couldn't blow up the whole ship, like a stray cannon shot. Couldn't blow up the whole, magazine is what they called it.
Uh,
So yeah, that was a job. Just strapping explosives to your body and hoping you don't get hit while you're running around a ship in the middle of a battle.
that's weird.
We have another one. Little kids again. Apparently, we hated little kids
Well,
so much. We hated them so much.
could you imagine though? I mean, in a lot of these, like I think of the Dust Bowl era, like when we had their 20s, late
Mhm.
20s. Could you imagine though? Like it was terrible if you lost a kid, but there were times in our history and throughout humanity where having a kid was like good. You hoped that they got to be old,
Yeah.
but you never banked on it. Like they
Mhm.
could die for a myriad number of reasons. And it was sort of like Doritos. It was like, oh, well, we'll just make more.
We'll have another one, I guess.
Yeah.
So now we have the Match Girls. What do you think the Match Girls did?
I don't know. Were they sisters to the Radium Girls?
Kind of. And no, these aren't girls who carry around numbers at prize fights or anything. These lucky kids were constantly getting poisoned by white phosphorus while they made matches, kitchen
Oh,
matches.
okay.
They would work long hours in factories making matches, and apparently white phosphorus is not good for you. And it would literally, their bones would rot, and so would their brains. Their jaws would literally disintegrate, but they needed the work, and the factory owners needed cheap labor, so the process continued. When workers finally went on strike, they did get better pay and working conditions, but it took until the early 1900s for anyone to ban white phosphorus in match manufacturing because you don't need it. It's, you don't need white phosphorus to make matches. You don't have matches with white phosphorus in it. That's not a thing anymore.
What
Our matches do not have white phosphorus in them
anymore? They did at the
anymore.
time.
And so
Okay.
they did at the time, but it just made the matches like imperceptibly better, but to the point where you couldn't tell the difference.
I kind of feel like that's a lot of the things in our food these days.
Yeah.
Like I just threw away a jar of it was Smucker's all natural. It was on the list. Smucker's all natural, like no preservatives, right?
Mhm.
And if you looked at it compared to the others, it's kind of a dingier red for the strawberry jam, and it has no preservatives. And the reason I threw it away was because it had mold on the inside.
Mhm.
But we'd also had it for a couple months, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm okay with this trade-off that it doesn't look flashy red, and I had to throw it away because I didn't use it all. And thinking of the formulation people that are like, well, but if we put this one chemical in it, it'll last for a year.
Mhm.
And to know that they're doing that, and that if I had that jar for a year, I would have eaten it for a year and thought nothing of it. But it was something I thought of after throwing this away for a couple of months. Like, man, if it wasn't all natural, I'd be keeping this a lot longer. But I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
That the scientists know that the majority of the world's not going to ask too many questions.
Yeah.
You know?
Campbell's company's getting a bunch of crap for it.
Yes, they are.
Their stock went like bottom fell out of it for a second because one of their CEOs was like, "Yeah, I don't eat that shit. Do you know what we put into those things? That's for poor people.
Bioengineered meat. He actually
Yeah.
said that.
I don't eat that crap. I don't eat any of our products." And that's when you're like, "Yeah, you need to rethink your whole frickin' life at that point. If you're not going to use your own product, Why would you think anyone else would want to?
What's funny is there are little tiny signs all over the place of evidence of that kind of thing. Like if you look at like billionaires that are tech billionaires, I remember there's a video of Elon Musk sitting at a table being interviewed, or he might even been at one of his businesses, and it was just like video of the meeting.
Mhm.
And I noticed his phone, I should say phones, there was two on the table next to him. And I was looking at him, I'm like, I can't identify either one of those phones. I was like, that's not that's not a normal phone. Like, it's weird when you start seeing these little things where you're like, people that know.
I wonder, I was watching, I saw a clip, and it's one of the Navy SEALs guys who has a podcast, and he was talking about there's these phones that, and he probably has two of them, but they're like $20,000 for these phones a piece.
The dark phones.
Yeah,
Was it on
they're the
Sean
dark,
Ryan?
I think
Ryan
so. And he's
podcast,
talking about, dark phones, where he's like, you can't trace them,
Yeah.
you can't hack them. Like, they're just, he's like, it's one of the only things that's like legitimately safe.
Yeah.
So he probably just has two of those, is what it is.
Could be. Also, I'm kind of like, well, I've had an iPhone for so long. I guess I'm already out there.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
They know everything.
Yeah,
They know everything about you. One of my buddies works in baking. He's like a regional manager, and he's like, guess what? Your credit card numbers are on the dark web. Every single credit card number is on the dark web. He's like, the roulette game you're playing is if somebody actually buys it and uses it.
Yeah,
he's like, it's out there.
The lists they buy are so many credit card numbers that it's not if, it's when that it gets to your credit card number.
Yeah. So he's like, he's like, every day is Russian roulette with your credit card.
Makes sense.
And so he's like, it's already out there. It's just that he's like, the odds of it actually being used, because then someone has to pay for it, right?
Right.
And people are cheap. So it's like somebody would have to actually buy your number and then use it. He says, so the odds are like kind of in your favor. But at the same time, he's like, you're not safe. He's like, you're just, it's kind of like safe in numbers, right? Like, they can't kill all of us at the same time.
Yeah. I play real fast and loose. I got to be honest. Like I play fast and loose with stuff because like there's certain pockets where I'm interested in creators' creations, like let's just say it's like an audio editing plugin or something, and I end up transacting with, I end up paying them in a Russian currency, I can't use PayPal because PayPal won't allow it. So they're like, well, you'll have to use this app. And so I'm like, okay. I do that more, than I probably should, transacting with, I don't know. I guess I'm just so aware of the fact that I'm already out there everywhere.
Yeah.
My stuff's out there. So I guess I've kind of resigned to the recourse that, well, okay, but if this ends up blitzing my debit card, I'll just go and report it. And it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I don't know. How many times have you had a debit card or a credit card get hacked and you had to like call?
Yep. It's always better. It's always like, I don't use my debit card anymore for that reason, because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because the bank doesn't want to do their job. Like, I've had it where it's like, there's a pending charge. I'm like, cancel the charge. They're like, we can't. I'm like, I just told you that's not me.
We got to wait for it to clear.
We can't. And I'm like, yes, you can. Like, I know you can. You just don't want to.
Yeah.
And then like, even like, I've had them look me in the eye and say, but if we do investigation, we find out that this was you, there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah, I'm just like,
what? Go for it. Search all you want. Search till the freaking cows come home in the morning. I don't care. You're not going to be able to find anything that actually traces it back to me.
Talk about somebody who doesn't use the product. There's this one guy. I love him. He's old white-haired guy. And anytime I see his videos, he's like swearing at the audience. This guy's like, he's a financial guy, but he's always swearing at the audience, and everybody thinks he's edgy and cool. But at one point on a panel, he was asked a question and he's like, oh no, I don't, and my kids don't use their debit cards for transactions. I won't
Yeah.
let them. They'll use a credit card because a debit card is connected to all of our money. It's
Mhm.
our checking and our savings accounts and everything. And I firewall myself and my kids from that. They'll use credit cards.
Mhm.
And if and he's following that logic that you should use a credit card because you have the money to pay for the thing.
Mhm.
And
And
obviously
you
he's a financial guy, so he's got it. But
and
so
you get rewards from your credit card that your debit card doesn't give you.
right, and there's a air gap firewall between
Mhm.
the rest of your wealth and that and your transaction. And he's like, so you use a credit card, you pay it like a good human, pay it on time, pay it off,
Mhm.
and that credit cards have their fraud processes are so much more efficient.
'Cause it's their money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
their
it's not
that's
my
what a credit
money.
card is you're borrowing someone else's money.
Yep.
And so like they're like, that's our money, so they're way more vicious when it comes to getting it back. And it's just like with my debit card, they're like, "Oh, you'll see the funds back in 14 business days." And
Yeah.
I'm just like, "What?" With a credit card, they're just like, "Oh, that's not you. Okay, money's
Yep.
okay, it's done."
And you got a new
And
card within 10 days, 7 to
yeah,
10 days,
and they're just like, "Okay, we'll look into it, and we'll if you don't hear back from us, then that's fine because we took care of it. We don't need any more information from you."
One time I had a credit card where somebody had gotten a hold of the credit card number and bought and gone on those websites where you buy used kicks, but they're like $3,500 a piece kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like the collector's Jordans.
Yeah. And there were like 11 charges. And I was like, no, I called fraud prevention and they were like, were you in New Jersey? I'm like, no. Okay, were you at a bread shop in Brazil? No. You
Mhm.
know, uh, and they just wiped it. They were just like, okay. And I asked them, I said, "So do you guys do you go after the people that do this?" And they said, we're not an investigative department. So our job is to clear the problem and get you another card. And I'm like, so nothing really happens to these people. And they said in some cases, depending on what the buyer is buying, they may end up in an investigative wing. I'm like, well, what is that? And they're like, usually it's like drugs or arms. Or I'm like, so like in my mind, I was like, why am I playing the good game? Why don't I just go to Capital One and get my card, you know, have it shipped to my neighbor and, start wearing really nice shoes. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
what's keeping me? And they're like, honestly, you're honest. That's what's, I was like, dang it.
I hate being honest. This is the
That's
worst.
crazy. And the thieves know it too. Like
Mhm.
they know ways around it. They know where to ship it.
But yeah, your credit card protects you. Your debit
Right.
card doesn't.
Yeah.
The bank doesn't care about you. Like bank doesn't care about you or your money because it's
Well,
not theirs.
it's the realest money you would think too, but I went to Canada and the one thing that you just almost impossible to use was my debit card. Like
Mhm.
any like parking stall payment or remittance of forget it. Like it had to be a credit card for it to
Yeah.
work. The real money sitting in my account was almost useless.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
And that's things like some credit cards you can like. I have a freaking Amex card. I haven't used it in years. My account's still open. I have it if I need it
Yeah.
for whatever reason, but
Yeah.
and it's been years I haven't touched it. Like this is so the other day I went to the bank to have something notarized and they needed to have like use my card because I was my wife needed to send a money order for something. So they just have you put your debit card in, right? To prove who you are.
Right.
And so I put it in and it didn't work and found out that if you don't use your debit card or don't run any transactions on it in 1 year, the bank just kills the card. So my
I've had
card was dead. So they had to literally
wow.
print me a new card. And they're like, yeah, like the teller's like, she's like, yeah, what I usually do is like maybe every like 5 or 6 months,
Throw
I'll
some
just go
gas on
buy
it.
my coffee on my debit
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
Like just something cheap, just
Yeah.
swipe it real quick, get a snack at the grocery store or whatever. She's like, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But I'm just like, oh, so that's how much I use my debit card.
I've used
Never.
I've had that happen with several credit cards where I won't use it. It's like a rainy day, it's in a drawer or safe somewhere. And yeah, no, they'll cancel it. They're like, no, you're not using it. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
My Amex still works, I think. Who
You
knows?
should try.
I know. I have to go find it first.
Yeah, right. Are you done with your jobs?
Yeah, I'm done with my jobs.
All right.
Yeah, I'm done with my jobs.
So before I do my thing, I came across something that was really interesting. It kind of struck a chord with me in a weird way. Part of it is the presentation, so I'll dig into that a little bit after I show you. But I wanted to show you this little cartoon strip that I came across. So I'll share my screen.
Hold on. Can I take like 30 seconds real quick?
Yep.
Okay. I got.
Oh, he's like leaving. He's leaving. Well, fine. I guess what should I do? Should I tell you some things? Should I tell you some things? I got things to tell you. I'm working on two shows to bring them to 11:59 media, 2 new shows. And I'm excited about it. I've learned to not talk about them until, and pretty much anymore, I don't talk about shows that are coming until they're like ready to go. But I have 30 seconds, so I'll let you know there's 2 shows coming to 11:59 media, and clock it. It's December 2nd, 2025 when I'm saying this. So, one, we're hoping for a launch in this January. And if for anyone that's ever wondering if they could ever make a podcast for 11:59, part of my 1-minute explanation on whether you could or not is the podcast has to have 10 episodes made in order for us to launch. So know that if you're ever like, I want to, what would I have to do to be a podcaster at 11? You have to have 10 episodes, and we're part of that process along the way. It's not just like you recording 10 episodes. So you're very well vetted before you drop. Just ask Luther. But I was just telling people that there's 2 shows coming to 11:59 here.
Oh yeah,
soon.
Sorry, that could have been an important call, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it's probably your credit card, right?
Yes, they're like, we heard you talking about us.
Okay,
like,
so
this isn't even posted yet.
Here's here I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so for the audio listeners, you won't be able to see this, so I'll narrate. The first slide here is 2 people sitting at a little coffee table, and you'll notice their feet are in water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the room is starting to flood, and it's filling up under their feet. And the one person says to the other, says, I used to love you. And the other person says, I know, I loved you too. Next slide. That was love? You treated me worse than anyone. That was years ago. You still think about it? Of course, I lost myself when I was with you. I couldn't trust anyone for a long time. And the water's filling up almost to their knees now, halfway through their shins. You know what's weird, though? I want to forgive you. I want to move on. Then forgive me. What's stopping you? If I forgive you, then it's like nothing happened. I'm no longer living proof of the harm. The evidence would be gone. The water's up to their hip. Is that all you are? Evidence? No, but I'm proof that it mattered. It has to matter, because if all of those bad things happen to me and I just forget about them, what's the point? Water's up to their chest. There is no point. We enter the world kicking and screaming. We break hearts and get our hearts broken. Maybe I had a bad childhood. Maybe I was projecting. Who knows? Either way, it wasn't your fault. Water's up to their neck. The real you wouldn't say all this. You're right. That's the downside to talking to ghosts. I'm not really here, and even if I were, it wouldn't matter. Now they're underwater. I'm not the one you need to talk to. And then the person finally realizes, I forgive myself for not leaving sooner. The water starts coming down. Now they're no longer underwater. I forgive myself for betraying my feelings. I forgive myself for not trusting my instincts. I'm safe now. I wanted to share that because I think that it was hard. It was hard watching that. I think because the interaction that the person who was harmed, who was the victim, in that case, was talking to the person that did the harming,
Mhm.
the victimizer. And the victimizer was saying some pretty harsh things. They're the ones that caused it, but they're like, well, just forgive me then. Why don't you? And it's hard to hear the victimizer say that because it doesn't sound like the victimizers learned a lesson, right?
Mhm.
What they're saying is true, though. It's just you don't like the person that's saying it to you.
Yeah.
Is as a victim, we wouldn't want to hear that truth from the person that did the victimizing. The hard pill to swallow here is that that's true, though, is regardless of who's saying it, couple slides into this cartoon strip, the answer is you don't need to have that conversation with anyone.
Mhm.
Because the person that you need to forgive, if you're still holding on to something that was done to you, is yourself. And that's a weird Gorgian knot to undo because you're not conceding that you were flawed. You're not conceding that you, quote unquote, deserved it. But what you're conceding when you forgive yourself is that you were vulnerable to bumping into walls. You were vulnerable in making a match with somebody that wasn't a good match. That
Mhm.
it's not owning that you were a victim and the hurt, that you're not including yourself in the damage that was done, but you're including yourself into saying, I'm better and different now. And that holding on to a war that you were in and the shells that burst over your head and you took shrapnel,
Mhm.
holding on to that, believing you're still in that war, only hurts you. I love this thing that my wife says, and she saw it somewhere, and it's obviously somebody else smarter came up with it than us, but holding a grudge and not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I don't know. I thought I'd mention that because that was kind of a hard pill for me to swallow because I was like, at first blush, I was like, well, if I were the cartoon strip creator, I wouldn't put the victimizer at the table. I'd put like the loving mother of the victim or someone and be like, well, why can't you forgive them? But it made it like, I think, a little more intense to see the victimizer saying it because the whole point is whoever you're talking to about these things is a ghost in that scenario. Your
Mhm.
loving mother or the victimizer or a counselor or whoever, none of them are the person that ultimately you will be addressing to overcome the feelings and the ramifications of and the damage of being a victim, and
Mhm.
that is you.
Because my brain works in movie quotes, it just reminds me of the movie Labyrinth. I mean, what's the final thing she says before she gets out is, "You have no power over me." because she realizes that she is in control of her own, and she says that, right? She goes back to reality. Like,
Yeah.
it's because, yeah, he never had any control over her. She was there of her own free will to save her brother, and then once she did that, she's like, "Okay, I don't have to be here anymore. Like, this is my choice to be here, and I'm choosing not to be here anymore." And she went home. And that's
Yeah.
kinda how you have to be with some relationships. It's like, yeah, they were horrible, and it's like the cartoon said, "Why didn't you leave sooner?" And they forgave themselves for not leaving sooner, right? And that
Yeah.
was one of the realizations, is like, well, part of this was kind of my fault. Not all of it, but there was I could have ended it sooner for myself. And that's something that sucks, because then nobody likes to admit they were wrong, right? And there's reasons why people stay in relationships, but it's just like, you have to admit that, oh, part of this was me not standing up for myself.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons maybe we stay in a victim mindset for longer than we need to, because there's definitely a period of time. It's triage. It's the triage period where damage has been done and wounds need to heal and everything, and where the label victim is appropriate. And some people just refuse to have the label victim from the beginning. And I'd almost argue that's not healthy either, because
Mhm,
I think it's okay to be in triage uh, as part of the healing process. Um, Understanding when the healing is done, it's kind of like, being in a devastating car wreck, and the body needs time to heal. Once the body is done healing, the triage is over, you will reverse the processes of healing if you don't rehabilitate.
mhm,
If you break a leg and a hip and everything, and the body heals itself, and you don't start the painful process of rehabilitation, you'll lose mobility. You you
mhm,
you you need to shift from that triage to something else. Somebody messaged me this weekend, and something they said stood out to me. They said, "And honestly, what little success I have has filled no void in me whatsoever." And I think what it hit me weird when I read that, because in this case, maybe I was the recipient of the bad thing. And it caused me to think for a minute about, what had I been wanting? Why was I still in Grudgeville? And it got me thinking that the moment had just arrived when that message was sent to me, that this was the consequence that I, in my grudge state, was wanting. I wanted to know. I wanted this person to recognize that the void that they had wasn't filled by anything. But then I realized, why was I waiting for that? Why was I
mhm,
waiting for them to acknowledge that, because it didn't fill my void by hearing them say, "Look, I've gained nothing
mhm,
by this void wasn't filled by the actions that I took against you." And then I saw this little cartoon strip, and I thought, man, I'm a dummy. You know,
mhm,
I it's the hardest thing, right? It's the hardest thing to forgive ourselves, and it's sort of this like really easy banner to say, "Oh, you need to forgive yourself," but really, what it is you're not. eh, it's different for everybody. But for me, this really was a poignant moment, because in one weekend I had a very in your face example of someone saying, "You were wronged, and all of the benefits that I might have gleaned from you being wronged, none of it none of it filled the void of the separation that I
mhm,
now have with you." And and take that however you will, and in your own life. But the things to address when you're forgiving yourself are forgiving yourself for the vulnerability that maybe you never meant to have, maybe the vulnerability that you never knew you had, because weakness is something that's very rarely identified until we're stress tested.
Mhm.
And then we identify the weakness. And then at that point, we can either say, I'm weak in that way, and I was a victim because the stress test abused me. Or we can say that stress test identified a weakness, and I now want to resolve that weakness, but the only way to do it is to recognize I'm weak,
Mhm.
and that there's a path to strength. And it rarely involves the stress tester.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. I got a thing.
What is it?
You have to say, Sam, what did you bring today?
Sam, what did you bring today?
I brought a crazy story about a fruit company. Okay. Even if you get the catch on, you can't say anything because I've crafted this in a the rest of the story kind of way.
Okay. I'll just blurt it out halfway through.
Yeah. All right. So a federal courtroom in Florida has done something that almost never happens in the United States. It's held a powerful American multinational company civilly liable for human rights abuses committed overseas. So that's a mouthful that we rarely hear in news in the United States. One, we rarely hear of an American company who is held civilly liable for human rights abuses. Like, top of mind, like if I were to think of companies where we'd probably want to hit them over the head with human rights abuses, it's sad to say, but Apple stands out because, of the things that we know about the way that they allow child labor in other countries or have in the past.
And Nike.
And Nike, and pretty much any big apparel company, because if they're not shouting it from the rooftops that they don't do that, they're all probably turning a blind eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, though, that it's one thing if we could identify an American company that is civilly liable for human rights abuses, but to go one step further and to hit a company over human rights abuses committed overseas, not a lot of courts would be like, yeah, we should take this on. It's a couple steps outside of like anybody's thoughts of, yeah, we should do this. But in this case, a jury found a global fruit conglomerate that they financed a notoriously brutal Colombian paramilitary organization from 1997 to 2004, contributing to a campaign of terror that left thousands dead. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just so weird. It's a global fruit company. The company's Colombian subsidiary funneled at least $1.7 million to the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, the AUC. It's also called the AUC, which does not line up with any of the words in the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia. During those years, $1.7 million. For the families of 8 murdered Colombians, the jury awarded $38.3 million in damages, a sum that will never bring their relatives back, obviously, but sends an unmistakable message. Corporate complicity in atrocity is not beyond the reach of the U.S. law. So the verdict did not appear out of nowhere. It's not an aberration. It is a flash of illumination in a story more than a century long. A story of railroads and plantations, coups and propaganda, massacres and marketing jingles. The same company now being forced to compensate victims of paramilitary death squads in Colombia once helped, the same company, same fruit company, helped overthrow the democratically elected government of Guatemala in 1954. Working hand in glove with the CIA and with one of the founding architects of modern propaganda. Get this, Edward L. Bernays, which if you haven't heard of him, he was Sigmund Freud's American nephew, also known as one of the fathers of modern propaganda. So the world knows the corporation today through a cheerful logo and bright blue stickers on supermarket bananas. Latin America, however, has known it under other names and at the point of a gun. The civil case that led to the June 2024 verdict was years in the making. So lawsuits were first filed back in 2007 on behalf of Colombian families whose loved ones had been killed by the AUC, a right-wing paramilitary federation notorious for massacres, forced disappearances, and terror campaigns disguised as quote-unquote counterinsurgency. In court, lawyers for the plaintiffs painted a stark picture. The executives at the banana conglomerate's Colombian subsidiary did not just do business in a war zone, they paid the war. From 1997 to early 2004, the company transferred more than $1.7 million to the AUC via a variety of channels, including the subsidiary Banadex, which operated large plantations in Uraba and Santa Marta. So the corporation did not dispute that it paid the AUC. It never could. Years earlier in 2007, the company had already pled guilty in U.S. federal courts to engaging in transactions with this designated foreign terrorist organization and agreed to pay at that time $25 million in criminal fines for those payments that they had made. So the criminal case established a couple key facts here. So the AUC was formally designated by the U.S. government as a foreign terrorist organization in 2001. So it made it a federal crime for a U.S. company to provide it with any money or other support. Despite knowing that, the corporation continued to make payments, about 50, totaling about $825,000 after the designation took effect. So outside counsel explicitly warned the company's leadership in 2003 that the payments were illegal and they had to stop making them. But instead of stopping, the company kept paying the AUC for nearly a year after its own lawyers were wetting down both legs, and the Department of Justice told them that doing so was a crime. So your lawyers are telling you to stop. The Department of Justice comes out of nowhere and is like, hey, what you're doing is illegal.
See this thing you're doing, this specific thing? Do that no more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, what you're doing is funding criminal terrorist organizations. Like I would listen, right? So in the Florida civil trial, corporate attorneys leaned heavily on the language of coercion. So these weren't just voluntary contributions, they argued, but they were quote unquote protection payments, and that they were made under duress. So that these were payments that were extracted by a violent group that threatened to kill workers of the fruit company and destroy infrastructure if money didn't continue to flow. The jury didn't buy that defense at all. After a 6-week trial and 2 days of deliberation, they found that the company knowingly provided substantial assistance to the AUC and failed to act as a reasonable business would have done under the circumstances. Because, they were playing this sort of like every horror movie. It's like, oh no, that person got killed right in front of us. We should call the cops. And in the movie, they're always like, no, we can't call the cops, right? Can't call the cops. So this fruit company is like, if it were coercion and everything that they were being forced to make these, you call the DOJ. You call somebody and you're like, hey, this is happening. We need help, right? But they, in pure Hollywood horror movie fashion, they're like, we can't call the cops. So the verdict concluded that these payments were not an unavoidable cost of doing business in a conflict zone. They were a hazardous activity that materialized and strengthened this terrorist organization. So with that, a Florida jury forced an American corporation to financially recognize its role in bloodshed that had happened far from U.S. shores. In this purely legal terms, it was a civil judgment. So this isn't a criminal judgment. In practical and moral terms, though, it was a crack in the wall of corporate impunity. But to understand why that really matters, why this case is not about a single company writing a big check, it's necessary to kind of step back and look at the long arc of the, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's necessary to step back and look at the long arc of the banana empire. So bananas arrived in the United States. I don't know if a lot of people know this. It was a luxury curiosity in the late 19th century. So late 1800s here. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, yes. Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 1800s. Quickly became an everyday staple. So the real money was never in selling individual bunches of fruit. It was in controlling everything behind the fruit. So like the land and the railroads and the ports and the shipping fleets, right? So in 1899, several companies merged to form a dominant force. So they became the United Fruit Company. And that was their name, United Fruit Company, built on this land concessions that were in place in like Costa Rica and Honduras, Guatemala, and Colombia. United Fruit combined all of the plantations together, took all the railroads and combined them, and combined all the ports into a vertically integrated empire that could grow bananas on vast swaths of tropical land and transport them directly to North America and European markets. So this is kind of where like I find it kind of funny because, you know, other countries will look at us and be like, oh, you American gluttons, you eat bananas without thinking of the consequences. You know, it's like, we've had this kind of thing happen with like avocados where it's like, you know, oh, you don't even, dumb Americans, you fat Americans, you don't even know what your avocado desire is doing to the Mexican people. We're like, well, no, we don't know because it's hid. Also, this is like a massive empire that was built in another country. No, we don't know. We're just eating bananas.
6 steps removed from us.
Exactly. So governments across all of Central America, they were desperate for investment in infrastructure. And so a lot of these places are qualified third world, right? So to build their infrastructure for their governments and their people and everything, they traded land and legal privileges for railroads and ports. So it kind of reminds me of like Colombian drug cartels where they're smart enough that if there's a nice school in Colombia, it's probably built by a cartel.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that they keep an operation is they appease the government by helping with infrastructure. And it's actually happening in my small town. Just outside of town, Meta is building a giant data center. And my dumb city leaders are like, oh, well, they'll help with infrastructure. And so Meta literally was like, we'll pay for the road. We'll pay for the infrastructure going to the data center. This thing's like 10 miles outside of town, right?
Mm-hmm.
In land that no one's using. And my city is like, oh, well, they'll build us a road. They'll build the infrastructure.
It's like, what is it, like a 10-year project? I know someone who's working on it. It's like a 10-year project. They're paying prevailing wages. So it's like, the dude getting paid the cheapest on that whole job site's like making $40-something an hour.
Oh yeah.
So they're paying like out the nose. Like my buddy, he's making like 60-something an hour because he can drive heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's awesome. He's like, and I can have this job for the next 10 years if I want it.
Yeah. The funny thing, then the ironic thing here kind of is that the city is bending over backward to allow Meta to do this, and Meta, for the cost of building a road and pulling some infrastructure down a road 10 miles out of town, and then employing, which we're finding out now, the majority of the people that are helping to construct the plant aren't even from my town. right?
Mhm.
And then the city planners are short-sighted in thinking, oh, well, they're helping build infrastructure to a data center that's going to employ less than 100 people.
Yeah.
It's a data center. It does, it's servers whirring away. It's not like it's an Amazon warehouse or something. So it's crazy, but the company says, hey, well, we'll help build infrastructure in your dumb little town and you'll let us because
Mhm.
it's infrastructure and that's what you care about. So that's what's happening in Central America. So in practice, this often meant granting in their case, granting foreign fruit companies enormous power over these towns, these little small little places, economy, and even the politics. And we're already starting to see that in my town with the politics in particular, that Meta isn't just funding the road. They're also supporting candidates that
Mhm.
line up with their ideology, because Meta's plan is like, well, if we get a foothold in a small town, we can build a data center. And also if we help support politicians that are pro data center, we can build more.
Yeah.
So they've got very extensive plans. So in Honduras, for example, the symbiosis was particularly stark. So United Fruit and some rival firms like Cayamel Fruit Company helped shape not just the company's economy, but its coups. So in particular, Cayamel Fruit Company, it just blows my mind these are fruit companies doing this, but Cayamel was a key ancestor of the modern banana corporation. They literally supplied weapons for a 1911 coup that installed a more business-friendly president to the area, to Honduras. So the American writer O. Henry coined the phrase, get this, banana republic, in 1904 in his story collection Cabbages and Kings, using it to describe a fictional Central American country whose politics revolved around the export of bananas and the influence of foreign corporations that were starting to imbue their control inside of the government. And the dude was calling it a banana republic. So the phrase stuck because it very neatly captured what people were increasingly seeing in real life, which were these small tropical nations whose sovereignty and the literal democracy, it was being subordinated to the needs and the whim of U.S. fruit companies. You can't make this up. Like he tried making it up and it landed. It was perfect. So United Fruit became the model of this system. So the company controlled millions of acres of land, often leaving large portions idle to block competitors. So there's things that happen in businesses where to the normal layperson like you or I don't make a lot of sense. I learned this very clearly at Hewlett Packard because, and I've mentioned this before, they had a program where in my current work, like at there, I was an engineer and I was over large format printers, and I would continuously see like a recurring problem on the printer from our customer base, right? And one of these things, like for example, one of the things was it laid down so much ink from the print head that there was a mist or an aerosol of ink that didn't make it to the paper from the print head, but kind of hovered in the air, and it would end up ghosting itself on the paper that was printed. And this was a big problem for people that needed very clear prints, right? And so I came up with this process. I'm humble bragging here, but I came up with this process as well. If to the side of the print head, you created you had a little electromagnetic piezo, basically a little magnet that wouldn't you couldn't even probably connect a paperclip to it, but the aerosol in the air was literally smaller than picoliters, which is a very, very minute droplet that's hovering in the air, that this magnet would act as a sweeper as the print head passed back and forth. This little electromagnet piezo would attract the aerosol out of the air. And so I submitted it as a patent submission to HP, and they were like, "Oh, all day long." So they bought the patent from me for like $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched what they did is they took that patent, they bought the patent from me. And then once they had an in, and they were like, okay, but we need to protect this from like, so Lexmark and all of our competitors don't try to do something similar. They went around and patented like every ridiculous thing you could think of around a piezo electromagnetic sweeper. And to me, I was like, why would they do that? But what they were doing is they were basically creating this protection around this very important piece of intellectual property, so that there was so much of a barrier from anybody trying to create something similar. They couldn't even get close because HP owned everything from the resistors, the technology and the resistors that powered the piezo, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So these fruit companies were doing the same thing with land. So they controlled millions of acres of land, and they would leave tons of these acres idle. They wouldn't put anything on them, but they owned the land, so it blocked competition because competition couldn't grow because the United Fruit owned all the land. So because of that, and they could stifle competition, they used that to leverage to shape labor laws and like land reforms. They owned so much land, they could force the hand of governments on reforming the land or not reforming the land.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it all the way to Washington and Washington policy, and governor or representatives in Washington were having their hands forced by big fruit. So in 1928, this is long, but I fell in love with this. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is the craziest story. So in 1928, striking workers on United Fruit plantations in Colombia demanded better wages and conditions. So the Colombian army, obviously the army's scared of United Fruit, and they have massive influence in Colombia. So the Colombian army opens fire on the strikers in what became known as the Banana Massacre. It killed an unknown number. We're not quite sure because the government's not going to report that kind of thing. Estimates range from a few dozen to over 1,000 people were killed. We're not sure, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the template. So you got land concessions and infrastructure deals that they give the foreign companies control over huge territories. They're basically kings over fiefdoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have political leverage to secure favorable laws and crush labor organizing like they're doing. Again, these guys are getting shot off of American soil, so we can kind of wash our hands of it if you're, a politician in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And then when workers resisted, they risked being met not just with local police, but with soldiers. And sometimes behind the scenes, the company itself was pulling the strings. So by the mid 20th century, United Fruit was not just a business, it was a power center. So it was a private actor, kind of like you keep hearing the name like George Soros, right? You hear him when it comes to certain political activism or whatever. United Fruit was the George Soros in this situation, and they're behind the scenes pulling all the strings. So they're literally dictating the destiny of entire nations. So this became very clear in the first stab against United Fruit, 1954 in Guatemala. So after a very long dictatorship, Guatemala in the 1940s and early 50s experimented with democracy and some reform. In 1951, President Jacobo Arbenz came to power on a platform that included land reform. That's a big step because you're up against United Fruit. And it was aimed at breaking up massive estates and redistributing all this unused land that they were just gobbing and then not doing anything with.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking at handing it over to landless peasants. So in a way, we see that playing out in Africa right now between white Afrikaners and people that are like, you we should be giving these to indigenous African citizens.
Mhm.
So that was a direct challenge to the business model of United Fruit, which held more than 500,000 acres of land in Guatemala. So much of it deliberately left uncultivated, like I said, to maintain this monopoly, so this moat around. And that because of all the land ownership, they could control the prices. So under Arbon's agrarian reform law, the government would expropriate uncultivated land, compensate owners based on the value they themselves had declared for tax purposes. So they're using their own taxes against them, and then redistribute it to peasants. So they would buy the land. They would, it's sort of a heavy-handed deal, but they would compensate Big Fruit for the land based on, well, what did you put on your taxes that land was worth, Big Fruit? And they're like, so we're going to pay you that much, and we're going to give it to peasants. And that was, and I'm not being mean there. That's literally how the legal terms read it as to what was happening. Peasants were getting the land. So United Fruit had long undervalued its land, obviously, to minimize taxes. They're looking at it as just, bare land that's worthless for tax reasons. And now those low tax valuations came back to haunt Big Fruit because the compensation offered by the Guatemalan state was a fraction of what the company insisted now that the land was really worth. So for United Fruit, that wasn't just a financial dispute. It was an existential threat. Like, it could bury them literally because they'd lose this land for pennies on the dollar. So if Guatemala could successfully push back against the banana giant, other countries might follow. That would set precedents, right? So the company reached for a weapon it had already been using inside the United States. It went with public relations and propaganda. So United Fruit hired Edward L. Bernays, a New York-based consultant whose uncle was Sigmund Freud. This is the weirdest story. And so his ideas helped establish the entire modern field of PR. So Bernays, he believed in using insights from psychology and psychoanalysis to engineer consent. So kind of to shape public opinion and behavior without people really realizing what was being done to them. I heard a guy just the other day saying, anytime, like, get aware of when you see an ad on Instagram, and when you see an ad, scroll back up a couple posts and you'll see that more often than not, the posts that directly precede an ad, they're showing you things that tug on your emotions or make you feel uncomfortable, or that the world is in a bad place. And he said, you'll see it. And it's true. Like, if I scroll my Instagram and I find an ad and I scroll back up, it's always a puppy post, or it's always a headline about something happening in the world that I have no control over. So in a way, they're engineering my consent to consider that ad more because I'm in a vulnerable, it's weird, it's crazy, but that's the way it works. So Bernays had already built a career on campaigns that fused this kind of marketing with deep psychological cues. So in a couple cases, he encouraged women to smoke by rebranding cigarettes as torches of freedom.
Yes.
And he made cigarettes this symbol of feminist liberation. So in another case, he promoted bacon and eggs as the quintessential hearty American breakfast, which, you think about it today, like menus, you go to Cracker Barrel, bacon and eggs is always labeled as like the hungry man's meal, or like, the farmer's breakfast. It's always this hearty, we're still using it. So in Guatemala, Bernays was hired. He took aim at a different target. So he targeted democracy itself. So he understood that in the Cold War climate of the 50s, the most effective way to destroy a reformist government in Latin America was going to be to label it communist. So Bernays orchestrated this broad media and lobbying campaign in the United States. And so he helped seed these stories. Like, it was like social media before social media. So he helped seed stories, and he'd brief journalists, and he framed Arbenz not as this national attempting to redistribute land reform, and but he successfully labeled him as a red menace on America's doorstep. So he's sending this worry to the same people he just pitched cigarettes as a feminist tool to. And he's calling this guy, Arbenz, the political leader down there, a red menace on America's doorstep. Suddenly, we're taking notice in America. We're seeing Arbenz as a puppet of Moscow now. So United Fruit's executives courted lawmakers and officials and newspapers. Sound familiar? Casting the company as a victim, in this case, of communist aggression, which we just saw play out in the last several months. I don't know if you noticed, but Facebook, like freaking Zuckerberg went in front of congressional panels and was like, we were a victim of the Biden administration forcing us to tattletale and forcing us to censor citizens. Like, we just saw this happen. This is happening like in real time right now. That, you know, in this case, they were a victim of this communist aggression against them, Big Fruit, rather than a predatory foreign landlord, which they really were. So
imagine trying to just say that with a straight face.
I know.
So who's your bully? Big Fruit?
Big Fruit.
What? My bully is Big Fruit. They're bullying me again.
And you think about it, like, there's no way that they could ever make the argument stick in America that they're like, look, guys, because of communism, you're never going to get another banana. Like, they couldn't make that argument. They had to go after the guy who's saying he's threatening democracy. Like, that's the only way that you could do it. And it's crazy to even say those words, because threat to democracy is a phrase that's being used right now in our own country, right? All right, so in Washington, back to the story, it lands on fertile ground, this narrative that he's building. The Eisenhower administration, whose own officials had personal ties to United Fruit, was super receptive to this idea that Guatemala required a covert solution to this problem. Like, then Eisenhower's the perfect pawn for this, right? Because he's got the CIA. So he goes to the CIA. He's got a vested interest in this because he has personal ties to United Fruit. So he goes to the CIA and they create Operation PB Success. So this was a U.S.-backed coup that armed and organized a small force under Carlos Castillo Armas, trained in Honduras on land owned by the fruit company and backed up by psychological warfare. Now, if you don't know your history, your recent history, Middle East history, you just go look at how the U.S. funded groups like, Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. We picked a country. We were like, Al-Qaeda, you're allies to us. Believe it or not, in the 80s, Al-Qaeda was a fair-haired child in our mind. We were like, we could train them and provide them with arms and everything, and they can take down dictators and leaders we don't like. So we picked a country. We moved Al-Qaeda's training to those countries. We gave them weapons and everything. We know how that worked out. Okay, but we went one step further with the CIA in this case, with Operation PB Success. We backed up all of that stuff with psychological warfare. We created fake radio broadcasts. We did aerial bombardment and relentless propaganda designed to create the illusion of this massive uprising. How often have we seen that lately? Where we're like, the camera is angled just right to make it seem like some protest is like, you know, taking over a whole city. When in reality, every once in a while,
close at the handwritten, hand-drawn signs, they're all printed.
Yeah.
Weird.
And if the camera flipped around, you'd see that the street's empty behind the camera, right? So anyway, in June of 1954, Arbenz resigns. He decides to just resign, and he blamed United Fruit and the CIA. So get that for a second. Let's say, because this is still all happening behind the scenes, right? Like imagine, it sounds like something Trump would say, like a reason Trump would like excuse, like he did with the Russian disinformation, right? He was saying things very similar because he was aware of what was happening on the back end, but the public wasn't. And so he just sounds like a crazy person. So in this case, 54, Arbenz resigns. He blames a fruit company and the CIA. He does it in a final radio address before transmission, get this, was cut. So Castillo Armas took power. He reversed the land reforms and he restored the fruit company's holdings. Guatemala soon slid into decades of brutal civil war marked by massacres and more genocide against indigenous communities. Because remember, the peasants had gotten the land. And so when all that stuff was reversed, the only way to get the land back was to kill a bunch of indigenous recipients of the land. So this coup was sold to the U.S. public as a victory against communism. We all bought it hook, line, and sinker. So for United Fruit, it was a corporate security operation. That's why this played out, right? In more modern parlance, that would have been, well, we attacked the country because of weapons of mass destruction, and then we don't find any, right? So there was this violent assertion that no government in its banana lands would be allowed to fundamentally change its control over land and profit. So that's the way we were pitched. It was pitched to us. It's like, look, we were pitched the opposite of what was happening. So the same company standing trial in Florida now in 2024 for financing a terrorist organization in Colombia had, in living memory, helped topple a government that dared to redistribute unused land to the poor. The tools were different. They were propaganda and covert coups in the 50s, covert financial support for paramilitaries in the late 90s. But the logic was hauntingly similar. Edward Bernays is sometimes called, like I said, the father of public relations or PR. His work gave corporate America kind of this new, more sophisticated language of power, which we're very familiar with today. It didn't rely on soldiers or coups, but it relies on dreams and desires and like these carefully managed stories where we are told this is about poor people, or we're told this is about mothers and children, or we're told this is about the underserved. And we buy it hook, line, and sinker in a lot of these cases. They did it to us about the banana lands and we bought it. But now that we know history, we bought the wrong thing. So in his book, Edward Bernays' book called Propaganda, Bernays argues openly that manipulating public opinion was not just inevitable, but necessary in our modern democracies. I've talked about it a little bit before, but this is no more in full bloom than when you look at Mao's China in the 1950s. He literally identified the people that could be manipulated the most through public opinion, emotionally and mentally, were who he called useful idiots. His whole army was sourced from the colleges because these are people they've got so much energy for change. They are so emotionally manipulative, easily manipulated, and they have no experience to lean on. So they don't know how economies work or anything, but he would gin up this support amongst colleges. So I can't believe he even wrote a book called Propaganda. He's given away the secrets. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He says that the public was too emotional and too uninformed to be trusted with raw, unfiltered reality. So instead, he posits that elites, like corporate and political people, should guide our thinking subtly and continuously through symbols and slogans and staged events. It does not take a historian to just look over the last several years and think of symbols, slogans, and staged events that we've all been party to, where we either saw it as anathema to American standards or right in line with our own ideologies, right? I mean, we can find them on both sides, left and right. So he took Freud's insights about the unconscious and repurposed them for commercial and political ends. So if people could be made to associate a product or a policy with aspiration and freedom, safety, or patriotism, they could adopt it as their own choice, even if the initial impulse had been carefully engineered. Now, you could do the opposite with this too. So you could take an object and turn it into something that identifies evil, identifies greed. We just saw this less than a year ago when people were lighting Teslas on fire.
Yeah.
Like, you think about it, like we can do that. A phrase like MAGA now stands for intolerance to a certain swath of people. Like, it's what he's saying is true, whether we like to hear it or not. We are very easily emotionally manipulated. In Guatemala, he used those methods not to just sell a product, but he sold regime change. So that was more than just PR. That was an early template for how corporations could wrap their most aggressive moves in the language of democracy and freedom. We saw it happen with Tylenol. Do you remember the Tylenol killer? Did you ever hear about that?
Well, also, did you hear about the Tylenautism?
Tylenautism, right. In both of those cases, well, little less with Tylenol and autism because they actually produced findings before RFK ever got his hands on it, saying that pregnant people should not use it, So they couldn't really. But when it came to the Tylenol killer, Tylenol came out rather than admitting to the fact that their quality control was massively lacking. They pulled a PR move, just like Bernays would tell them. They called themselves a victim, and we all bought it. We were like, oh yeah.
Didn't like the tamper-proof seals come about because of that case?
Exactly.
And that's why we have tamper-proof seals?
Yeah, and that's why the tamper-proof seals are almost impossible to open, right? It's because they needed to make it so convincing that there's no way within a few seconds somebody could tamper with the product.
Well,
right?
It's kind of like, where did I read it? That like taking your shoes off in TSA doesn't do anything like it is, but they were expected to quote unquote make a change. So they made a change by having everyone take their shoes off.
Yeah.
And they're like, people at the top are like, this isn't going to do anything. This isn't going to solve anything. This isn't going to catch anything that we would have not gotten anyways.
Yeah.
But it was just to make people feel better about themselves, right?
Well, do you remember the incident that made us take our shoes off?
I thought it was 9/11.
The shoe bomber.
Yeah.
There was a guy who got on a plane with a bomb in the sole of his shoes, and it lit on fire. It didn't even explode, but he got on the plane and it made such national news that suddenly the optics were, well, how do I know if the person in front of me wearing a chunky heel on a boot isn't carrying an incendiary device? So suddenly,
I brought it up before, but the fact that my buddy got a loaded handgun on a plane accidentally, tells you all you need to know about TSA.
Yeah,
he didn't even know he had it until he was on the plane and opened up his DVD case to find a loaded firearm.
Yeah.
And he was flying. He was an hour over the ocean on his way to Hawaii when he found it. And he got it back through TSA. Like, he didn't take it on the plane. He put it in his carry-on. They didn't say, it wasn't in a TSA-approved box, locked, right?
Right.
And same thing. He literally said, because in Hawaii, if you've ever been, they have the pre-screening for your luggage.
Right.
Where they're literally just looking for things like fruit, crabs, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So his bag got stopped, and he goes, "Oh crap!" Because he can literally see the gun on the machine. And the guy goes, "Sir, is that a crab shell in your bag?"
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, "Yep. Let me take it out for you."
Guilty
Pulls
as
it out,
charged.
throws it in the trash, and then the bag just goes. And he's like, "I'm literally staring at the gun, and this guy couldn't take his eyes off of the crab shell I had in my bag."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, I feel safe. I feel so safe."
Yeah. Okay. So I know my story's been exquisitely long. There's an ending to it here, though. So by the 1960s and the 70s, United Fruit's power was beginning to fray, right? Antitrust scrutiny, there's market competition, there's political backlash. Anytime PR does a good move in convincing a certain slice of the population, there is a certain slice of the population that's like, this doesn't feel right. We saw that. I don't even have to mention, I mean, rewind a couple of years and we've seen that happen over and over and over. There's always a certain slice of people that are like, this feels weird. So that was happening. So they once had this unchallenged dominance and it was starting to erode. So the company decides to merge in 1970 with a company called AMK Corporation. And they created United Brands Company, which couldn't be more generic. Like, that's such a boring name. And it shifted away from its original name, even as it retained its core fruit operation. So really nothing on the inside was changing. It was just a pretty new veneer on the outside. So it just reconfigured itself. So among United Brands' assets was a particularly successful banana label marketed with a distinctive logo and character. Over time, the label became the face of the company's banana business. In the 1980s, United Brands was transformed again under a new owner, and by 1990, the corporation decided to completely embrace the flagship brand as its own identity for the whole company. So the name United Fruit Company was laden, obviously, with associations of labor repression, coups, and predatory land deals. It was now buried under a new corporate title that sounded light and tropical and fun. The rebranded empire projected a more benign image, a modern produce company devoted to quality and freshness and responsible sourcing. They had the bright blue stickers. They were slapped on all of their fruit. Cartoon characters with catchy mascots, dancing in commercials. They had jingles that made the brand feel harmless and even wholesome, kind of part of your childhood. So meanwhile, the banana republics, where the company had left a deeper mark, people remembered something different. They remembered land grabs, and they remembered military interventions and work conditions
They
that had
remembered
cost.
their uncle getting shot in the
Exactly.
face.
Yeah, so this wasn't deception, this in the crude sense. The fruit was real. The company did ship bananas, but the branding acted like a veil. So it kind of drew the eye away from its history as an empire crusher, an empire builder across like all of the global South. And it converted it almost magically to this like sanitized, consumer-friendly story. Can you guess the name of the brand?
It kind of rhymes with Shakira.
Yeah. So this is all the Chiquita Banana Company. Chiquita Banana is the company behind all. I'm sure a lot of people picked up on it early on, but I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, and it continued. I mean, 2024, we're still slapping these guys with fines for like funding FARC and like decades. Like, this thing has been going on longer than my parents have been alive almost. So I thought that was totally wild. Rarely, though, do you get a company. Well, I shouldn't say rarely. I think rarely does it come to light that an American company with such long arms across the globe is called on the carpet, because I'd love to say I can't believe I'm saying that. Chiquita Banana is in rare company with what they've done globally, but they're just they're the only ones really that have been caught so far like this, you know. So
I hate bananas, so it doesn't even count. No, but I hate bananas so much. I convinced my little brother that he didn't like bananas, and he didn't eat bananas for like 15, 20 years until at random he is feeding, like he has 3 kids, and kids love bananas, and it's an easy snack. And he was just like, let me just try this. And he takes a bite and he goes, I actually like
I
this.
like it.
And
My
then he
brother-
remembers, why did I hate bananas? And he's like, because my older brother hated them so much that he actually convinced me that I didn't like them too.
Yeah.
And so I did that.
PR. You had a successful brand campaign
Yep.
against bananas.
I did that. I convinced a boy to never eat bananas.
You're
for
lucky
20 years.
Big Banana didn't hear about that.
I know. I would have been shot.
Probably would have shot you in your sleep.
Send the cartel to kill half my family.
Yeah.
Everyone except for the little brother, because, you know, he eats bananas, so he's a potential client in the future.
Oh, yeah. Once he tasted it, he became a useful idiot.
Yeah.
So they like him. Anyway, that's all I got. I think that's all you got. We've been here a long time today, so.
It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah, we're pushing the limit. I don't know about you, but I need to make my bladder gladder after 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here too long. I think that's one of the nice things about being in the back door is you could literally be doing the most repulsive things and be listening to us, and we have no idea.
Yeah.
We can't because we're on camera.
You could be part of the Chiquita Banana Cartel mowing people down right now. We wouldn't even know.
And you guys don't know that I have 2 children under my desk, research and writing for my shows.
Yep.
And I haven't
Not
fed
even
them
his.
in 3 days.
Yeah.
So, well, with that, I think we'll peace out and hope that we didn't do too much public damage to Big Banana. So hopefully we'll be back in 2 days from now.
If no one ever ate a banana again, I could die a happy man.
Watch your words, brother. Watch
I'm
your
going
words.
to start my propaganda for convincing the world to never eat bananas again.
Yeah. Good luck with that. All right. Soup, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
So soup, let's start the show.